Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Elementary. We have missed you. It is so good to be back here and to see you. This is our first visit to a school in the last 2 years, and we're so happy to be here at Madison Elementary and to make our first visit with you. At Madison has a very proud academic tradition, a very proud community tradition. We just can't wait to hear all about the exciting things that you've been doing here. So it is 7:08 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any changes? Administration?
The administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the Monday, October 10, 2022 regular board meeting as presented?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Next up on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Board members, any changes or additions to the minutes from the September 12, 2022 executive session and regular board meeting? Hearing none, does the administration?
The administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 12, 2022 executive session and regular board meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries unanimously. Seems like I
Yeah,
have
your
a-
mic's not on.
Seems like I have a dead mic.
Here,
Testing,
take mine.
testing. This one?
Thank you, Mrs. Gates. Let's start over. No. Thanks for having us, Madison. It's great to see you again. And with our preliminary matters out of the way, we're going to move on to superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. This on? Yes. Okay, I love to come to Madison Elementary School. I absolutely love the Panthers. I used to be a teacher here. Do I have any former students? Would you guys stand up? You guys stand up, really stand up. My former students right here. Now, here's something great about the perspectives of kids. Well, I was a teacher here. I went to Mary Frank. I was a teacher, and I had several other jobs. And then I came back over 20 years later, and as superintendent, I was doing an interview at Mary Frank, and a student said, actually a former student, who didn't have me as a teacher, but he knew me, was the cameraman for the interview. We're finished, and he said, "Are you the same Mr. Thacker?" No, he said, "Are you related to the Mr. Thacker who used to teach at Mary Frank?" And I said, "That was me." And he said, "Couldn't be. He was a lot older than you." So it's great to see. I love this school. It's absolutely fantastic. And so we have some fabulous things going on at PHM, and we have a wonderful student ambassador. So Kiara Hvac is going to come up and make a presentation. Welcome, Kiara.
Sorry. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. I'd just like to say it's getting harder and harder to condense all these achievements into only 3 minutes, so sorry if I miss anything. And as always, I'm excited to share some academic and athletic achievements of PHM students and staff with you tonight. Starting off strong with academic highlights, some of you may have already heard that Felix Zhang was recognized by College Board as the only student in the world to achieve a perfect score on the AP Calculus AB exam, which is extremely impressive and exciting. I was actually in Felix's calculus class last year, so I can say from personal experience how talented of a student he is and how wonderful and dedicated our teacher, Miss White, was. So congratulations to both Felix and Mrs. White for this honor. And in athletic news, both boys and girls soccer claimed the sectional title against Adams High School, making this the 16th consecutive sectional championship title won by Penn girls soccer, which is an Indiana state record. Boys and girls cross country also claimed sectional titles, and varsity football claimed victory over New Prairie with a 21-0 shutout to win the Northern Indiana Conference Championship. So a big congratulations to all of our Penn sports teams dominating Northern Indiana. In Kingsman Court news, the homecoming parade was a success, so thank you to all who joined us, and special thanks to the PHM Education Foundation for their leadership in the parade. Finally, we are also preparing for our annual Turkey Legs fundraiser in November, where all proceeds will be donated to Riley Children's Hospital. And before I finish, I'd like to take a moment to offer up condolences to Reese Eberlein's family on behalf of PHM students, who sadly passed away last week. If we could all just take a moment of silence to honor Reese, who is a senior at Penn High School. Thank you for your time, and that is all I have for you tonight.
Thank you very much, Kiara. We appreciate your report. We appreciate you detailing all the successes our academic teams have had and that Felix has had and our sports teams. Also, thank you so much for your moment of sensitivity. We'll see you soon. Next up, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. This is really, really special. You know, we talk about our vision of excellence and our triangle of success connecting students, teachers, and parents. We may have the best triangle in the world with this next one. A couple of weeks ago at the Penn Elkhart football game, I was on the sidelines with Penn High School Principal Sean Gallagher, who shared with me an email, and he was literally speechless at what he was looking at. And it was from the College Board Advanced Placement. It said that junior at Penn, Felix Zahn, was the only person in the world not to just earn a perfect score on the spring AP Calculus AB exam. He didn't miss anything. He had every single answer correct. And so he is absolutely perfect, and he's the only one in the world. And here's what's also amazing. He has an amazing teacher in Mrs. Denise White, calculus teacher. And typically about 20% of the students who took that exam scored in the top 5. Over half of her students scored in the top 5. So we shared the news with the local South Bend media of Felix's amazing accomplishments. The word spread around the country. It's in Indiana, it's nationally. I have a friend who lives in Los Angeles. He sent me a text and said, hey, one of your students just being featured on the local news out here, which was quite fantastic. So we're certainly proud of that. Got a little shout out with the ABC News Network and even Trevor Noah on The Daily Show paying tribute to that kind of an accomplishment. So tonight, the board and I are proud to recognize and congratulate Felix, his parents, and Mrs. White in person. So congratulations to all of you, and then would all of you like to come up?
Felix, I've been waiting for this moment for a while. Congratulations, God. Congratulations, Mom.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out and for recognizing the hard work that Felix has done. I keep saying this is Felix's recognition, his award. He deserves it. I even had an AP calculus reader email me last week and just was overwhelmed at his accomplishment, because they say that as a reader, they are trained to look at every little detail. And there's so many places where students can make one small error. And if I probably took the test, I would make that small error. And Felix didn't. He worked extremely hard. He's brilliant. But he did take the time and effort that he needed to pay attention to those close details. So super proud of him. I'm super proud of all my students. It wouldn't be possible without them. So thank you.
All right, I'd just like to take this time to thank the PHM corporation, all the support I've had over the years, from my teachers, from the schools, from all the resources available. I mean, they're really what made this possible, I guess. Without them, this would not have been something that I could have done. So thank you for that.
I didn't expect to talk here. So I'm Shanjin Chen, Felix Mom. I really didn't prepare for anything. I just want to thank Mrs. White for teaching Felix, and we are fortunate to having for Felix to having such a wonderful teacher, and I also want to thank Principal Gallagher, for providing such a positive and supportive learning environment in Penn High School for all the kids in Penn High School. And thank all of you for inviting us to be here. Thank you. Good night.
Felix, we don't know what else to say. The superlatives, there just aren't enough. Congratulations, deepest congratulations on all your successes, and may God continue to bless you in all that you do. Thanks so much for being part of our triangle. We'll move on to the next item, which is Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We've had a great start to the school year, and we have lots of exciting things going on and lots of exciting things right here at Madison Elementary School. So Mrs. Lindsay Sharippa, the principal, is going to share some amazing things about the school community, and she'll highlight some of the community building events happening already this year. So she's brand new to this school, but she's continuing the long history of excellence and the strong community connections. Thank you, Mrs. Sharippa.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and distinguished members of the board for this opportunity tonight to highlight Madison Elementary. As you know, planning for our students and individuals and creating a caring learning environment are a tradition here at Madison. This year is no different. We decided that our overall focus this year would be on strengthening our relationships in order to build trust while creating an environment for all student learning. This summer, I was given an opportunity to attend the PHM Literacy Summit, which focused on comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary. One key takeaway from that professional development opportunity was that understanding that fluency is a bridge to both comprehension and performance on higher level reading tasks, including high stakes tests like iLearn. Research has identified repeating readings as one of the key strategies for improving students' fluency skills. I wanted to find a way to increase fluency for all of our students at Madison, while also strengthening their relationships in this building. I decided the best way to do that was to implement a new program called Panther Pals, which would allow students to strengthen their relationships through literacy. Panther Pals is a program where we pair older students with younger students to promote literacy. As you know, peer mentoring is powerful, and it can be a positive influence on all student learning. Students who are older, more capable readers, can be those peers for younger students. Panther Pals allows younger students to see what being fluent looks like, as they have older peers modeling and demonstrating specific reading skills. This can also help students acquire a positive role model with some intentional pairing. This program encourages our upper elementary students to develop patience and empathy as they work with their younger buddies. Additionally, students in the upper elementary who are struggling with grade level text, it gives them an opportunity to access reading materials without stigma or shame, creating a positive learning experience for all students. Setting aside this time together has helped our students thrive, both in and out of the classroom. Our goal is to continue this program into other academic areas, such as mathematics and writing. We have learned firsthand that these powerful moments are strengthening our school community through our connections and our relationships. I'd like to introduce you to some of our very own Madison Panthers and have them share quickly their experiences with all of you.
Hello, my name is Alex. I'm in the 5th grade. My Panther Pal is sadly not able to make it today. I'm going to share to you how fun it is to be on Panther Pals. In Panther Pals, you get to read stories to kindergartners on their level. It is very fun to teach them what you already know so they can be more smarter in the future. It's very funny to see that you're reading something to them and they don't even know that they're learning. I'm very excited to make a relationship with my Panther Pal, and hopefully he can love reading from the world and beyond.
Hello, my name is Matthew and I'm in 5th grade. My Panther Pal was also unable to attend tonight. I wanted to share with you that being part of Panther Pals is fun because you get to connect with younger kids at school. I like that we are able to teach younger kids and they don't even know that they are learning. 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders don't get to see the younger students at lunch and recess, so this allows us to spend time and build relations with them. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Hope you have a good night. Hello, my name is Jackson, and I'm in kindergarten, and I like when my 5th grader reads me stories, and he asked me questions, and I got to tell him his favorite things, and I like when we get to do fun stuff like Panther Pals, and I'm a Madison Panther. Hello, my name is Hadley and I am in 5th grade.
Hello, my name is Collins and I'm in kindergarten.
We are Panther Pals. Together we read books and hang out.
We read Fancy Nancy and Fell on the Unicorn. My favorite story was Fancy Nancy because she was silly. I like spending time with Hadley.
My favorite part of Panther Pals is that you get to help younger kids with reading. I enjoy spending time with younger kids and helping them learn and grow. Thank you for allowing us to speak at this event. We appreciate everything you do to help make learning fun for all PHM students.
Aren't they the cutest? Makes these meetings go. At Madison, we also know that relationship enhance students' levels of motivation and promote learning. So this year we decided to focus on building those relationships to strengthen our community by celebrating, motivating, and highlighting student successes. Each teacher was given a brag walk tag that was created specifically to use in their classroom as a way to celebrate academic, behavior, and social growth. All students have an opportunity daily to earn the privilege of walking the halls to share their successes with other students, staff members, and friends. Celebrated students get receive a Mrs. Sharippa is proud of me sticker to proudly display and a picture email that is shared with their family. My hope is that these celebrations will be highly desired by other students and a catalyst for conversations at home. Tonight, I have a few students who have earned the privilege of receiving a brag walk, and I'd like them to share their experience with you.
Hello, my name is Ethan, and I am in third grade. I wanted to share with you that I was able to go on a brag walk, and I got to celebrate with Miss Larry and Miss Shrippa. I earned a brag walk because I offered to comfort a student that was upset. I helped the student talk through their frustration and even asked to play with me at recess. Miss Liddick and Miss Shrippa was proud of me because I showed kindness and empathy on my own without an adult asking me to do so.
Hello, my name is Finley and I'm in second grade. I wanted to share with you that I was able to go on a brag walk and got to celebrate with Mrs. Unruh and Mrs. Sherpa. I earned a brag walk because I was helpful and kind. All students at Madison must follow PAWS, which is personal best, accept responsibility, work together, and safety matters. Hello, my name is Ella and I am in first grade. I wanted to share with you that I was able to go on a brag walk and got to celebrate with Mrs. Ritchie and Mrs. Shrippa. I earned a brag walk because I did a great job on my dibbles and even got into the blue. I have been working really hard in school because school is there for a reason, to learn.
Hello, my name is Landon, and I am in second grade. I wanted to share with you that I was able to go on a brag walk and got to celebrate with Mrs. Unruh and Mrs. Sherpa. I earned a brag walk because I was an active listener during foundations. Mrs. Unruh says we need to listen during foundations because it helps us be better readers. I think she's right.
So as you can see, these kiddos at Madison are doing amazing things. I am beyond excited to see the growth and learning that will continue throughout this school year. Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Thank you, President Riley, and members of the board for giving me this opportunity to serve the students and the community. Go Panthers.
What's in that wheel cart? I want to know.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we get an explanation about the lizard in the red wagon?
Great question. So that is Mrs. Unruh's cart. So the kiddos in her class that go on a brag walk, they get to use the wagon. Jake from State Farm is actually the animal in there. So he brings the paws that come with the kiddos. So they walk the halls with their wagon when it's their brag walk. So you can hear them coming. You know they're coming, which is super exciting. So yes, that is Mrs. Unruh's class. Thank you.
I noticed that a member of our media grabbed our kids for you just immediately after their presentation. So I'm going to wait to thank them until they come back in. And in the meantime, we did have a member of our public sign up to speak on this particular agenda topic. So Mrs. Cartwright, I'll call you forward. As always, 3 minutes, no personnel issues, and welcome.
Tina Cartwright. I'm speaking to you today as a proud Madison Panther. Wow, isn't this school great? I mean, I have to follow all those cute kids, so ugh. I was the last sixth grade class here at Madison. So many memories in this gym, playing dog catcher. If you don't know what that is, ask me later. It's a really fun game with Mr. Cole in gym class. Mr. Cole is our principal and our gym teacher, so he did double duties. We had a 5th and 6th grade basketball league here. I don't know why we don't do that anymore. It was so much fun. Maybe we can think about doing that again. My roots here run deep. I grew up about 2 miles down the road. In fact, I drove by on the way here tonight. My grandparents' house is no longer there, but it's always nice to go home. This little thing might not look like anything special to you, but maybe some of our previous principals might recognize this. This is something that my grandfather made for Mr. Cole, and he kept this little stool under the drinking fountain in the hallway for many, many years for all of the little Panthers that needed a boost to get a drink. Several years ago, I came home to a very special package at my porch. It was this little Madison blue footstool with Mr. Cole's handwriting on the bottom that said, "Made by Mr. Lester," and had my brother and I's name on it. So I immediately texted my friend's mom, Mrs. Sheila Lehman, who was a teacher here for many, many years. And she told me everyone at school agreed and wanted you to have it. This school was dedicated 36 years ago on October 5th, 1986. Here's a little excerpt from our dedication to the new school. This is from 1986. I even threw an elephant on the back. So, on behalf of the staff and entire Madison community, I welcome you to the new Madison Elementary School. Madison Elementary School, like the surrounding community, is rich in memory and tradition. The residents of this community are proud of their heritage, their agricultural setting, their schools, and their children. Since the first school was built on this site in 1900, the people of this community have shown enthusiastic support for education. This support has grown from years of service to the community by the staff, students, and parents of Madison Elementary School, Madison School. This used to be a high school. With the commitment of teachers, administrators, staff, school board members, parents, and students, we will continue to uphold the tradition of quality education. Cyril L. Cole, who was the principal. Is that it?
I think that's your
Was that
3
it? Okay.
minutes.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cartwright, thank you. That was a beautiful story about the footstool. Thank you for coming and expressing your enthusiasm and pride for Madison. It's good to see you again. It also, please go ahead. Yeah. I was going to thank Mrs. Shareppa for her presentation, but it seems that after her presentation, she too is being interviewed. Oh, there you are. Well, thank you, Mrs. Shareppa, for everything that you're doing here at Madison. And thank you, parents, so much for bringing your kids out tonight. This was wonderful. This is exactly why we like to take the show on the road from time to time, because we like to come out and see what you're doing in your schools and hear from our students. There's nothing that we like to hear more than what our students are doing and hear directly from our students. So Alex, Matthew, Jackson, Hadley, Ella, Landon are two beautiful kindergartners who just love Fancy Nancy. And to anybody that I missed, thank you so much for spending your You guys are wonderful, and you're the reasons why we want to sit here and help out. You inspire us, so thank you again. Parents, by all means, I welcome you to stay as long as you want for the rest of our school board meeting. We'll be going shortly into the business portion of our meeting. So if you'd like to go home now, we won't hold it against you. We understand that such things as dinner might be a higher priority. But thank you so much for coming out tonight, and thank you for allowing us to see you here at Madison. Well, that was wonderful, Dr. Thacker. Thank you for arranging that, and we'll move on now for our consent agenda.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 13 items appearing on the consent agenda as presented. Appearing on the personnel report under classified staff are the retirements of 2 employees. Deborah Yoder, study hall supervisor at Penn High School, retired effective September 2nd, 2022, following 18 years of service. And Michael Fern.
Before our board members, any questions? Okay, I noticed that we do have two individuals from our public who have signed up to speak on consent agenda. So before I call them up, let me read this. At regular board meetings, the board invites the public to address the board on specific topics under this agenda item by pre-registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during this item agenda. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of your comments. Individuals may speak only once during this section of the agenda. Personal issues are absolutely not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or to his designee. The board does not respond to questions or comments. So with those provisions in mind, Mr. George Bashir.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board. How do you follow up with something like that? It's very difficult to come something fun to something very serious. I come to you tonight and I want to talk about the rainy day fund. I know that Mr. Hawkins had talked about it at the last 3 sessions that we were in, according for the budget. And President Riley, you had shown some interest in putting money into the rainy day fund, or at least talking about it. The public is very upset. This board approved a tax levy that these folks cannot afford. I'm not sure if you've heard from folks, but I have. And it goes from parents of kids in school all the way up to our older citizens in the community on a fixed budget. This recession is hurting everybody. And if we had a rainy day fund that was in a spot that we could borrow from it, the tax levy that we just had could have been a little bit lower. So once again, I need you folks to consider funding the rainy day fund going forward, because we have to make it easier for folks in times like this, that they don't have to worry about their taxes going up crazy amounts when we're in a recession. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Bashir. Appreciate it. Next up is Christy Witt.
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. I actually signed up to speak on 608, which is regarding Washington, D.C. That's where I speak right now. I live in Granger. So a few months ago, during an agenda item regarding school-sponsored trips, I brought up my D.C. experience with how the earned fundraising money was handled because the trip was canceled due to COVID, which I completely get. D.C. is still not a PTO-sponsored trip. It's school-sponsored, in which all 3 schools handled it differently, not as a 1 PHM. The majority of what my child earned was from Script, which shouldn't have went to PTO. Schmucker and Grissom recognized that and gave earned funds back to the family. Discovery chose to keep all the kids earned fundraising dollars. The first year principal at the time said PTO made a decision to have a drawing the kid's senior year and draw 20 kids' names to receive a $1,000 scholarship. So if you're joining the military or learning a trade instead, you don't count. The PTO treasurer at the time said this was the principal's idea, each blaming the other. Why did we not allow that money to follow the child into high school or to even pass on to a sibling? Next year, will I sit in a room like this with my child's name on a piece of paper and be able to witness this drawing? What fund has at least $20,000 sitting in it today? Since this is a 501c3, would the IRS be able to audit and figure this out, since nobody cared at the time or now to even follow up with me? What's the most disappointing and discouraging part of this? Some of you said you'd look into my concern, and one did. But that PTO president now runs your education foundation, and the treasurer at the time, well, she was asked by all of you to run for the school board. Gaslighting parents is not a good look. So you're sending our kiddos to Washington, D.C. to understand how our country was built, but as a parent and part of the triangle, time and time again, I see at the local level that a dictatorship has been born and allowed to exist, benefiting just the elitist few. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Witt. Do I have a motion to approve the October 10, 2022 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
I just want to follow up on that if possible. I know we don't usually respond, but I did ask when we were looking over this agenda too, that the discovery trips could be more streamlined and equitable and, or not the discovery, but the middle school trips, because I know they use different departments, and moving towards kind of your thing that the experience could be more streamlined and look the same at every school so that we don't end up with these problems. If it's more minds maybe making decisions together would have helped this in the past, I think that happened. So I did make that request. I know Dr. Thacker was going to meet with talk to administration about them making the trips all look the same in hopes of preventing this in the future. And we've talked about that before, but I just wanted to mention that on this.
Thank you, Mrs. Gates. Do I have a motion to approve the October 10, 2022 consent agenda as presented?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. We'll move on to our next instruction action item for the evening. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Penn High School Principal Sean Gallagher and Associate Principal Rachel Fry are joining us this evening to give a presentation and ask for approval of an agreement with Cardonics. It's a master scheduling and staff planning technology for the high school. So welcome to Mr. Gallagher and Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. I apologize in advance for not having cute elementary students to give this presentation. We'll do our best. So we have the presentation up here. Awesome. Will I be able to use this clicker? Okay, awesome. So Penn High School will be seeking permission to purchase Cardonics, which is a master scheduling software to use for our next academic school year. And just a little bit about Cardonics. It's a patented master scheduling staff planning technology that provides school districts with significant time and cost-saving efficiencies. So one of the great things about this program is it does integrate with Skyward to pull required data to help us as we look at our different interfaces, and addresses all the considerations required to optimize our schedule. And lastly, it's going to enable us to be more efficient and allow time to dedicate more resources to exceed student needs. So we're going to talk a little bit about our current scheduling process, discuss some of our challenges, and then how this platform will provide some solutions for us. So if you take a look at this slide, you can see that at Penn High School, we offer close to 400 offerings. We have about 3,600 students, 180 teachers, 9 graduation pathways, 47 dual credit courses, 23 AP courses, 4 post-secondary partners, and 124 classrooms. So we have a lot of scheduling dynamics to consider. And so this past year, we actually have 350 actual courses running in our building of the 399 that are available to students. So as you think about the scheduling process, I'll give you a quick little timeline. If you have students in the system, you're familiar with this, but if you look in December, students will meet with their parents and start to discuss what course options they are interested in, and they'll use Skyward to enter those course selections. That's December and January. And when January comes, January through March, all our counselors meet with every student, 3,600 of them, to finalize their schedule based on their graduation pathway needs and requests. When we get to March, Rachel Fry, who's going to help us out with this presentation, and I and several other staff, we look at all of our course requests to determine the number of sections that we need to make sure we can meet the needs of our students and the courses they've selected. And then in April, when we get to April, we build the master schedule. You can see on this next slide, this is just a snapshot at 10 teacher schedules, but there are 180 teachers on there. I think you have access to the actual schedule itself if you wanted to look at it, but we have several courses, and we spend about the month of April building the master schedule. And then May comes around, we're getting to the end of the year, and we run the master schedule, and one of the things that we have to work with are student conflicts, scheduling conflicts. And so that takes up a lot of the month of May, with students meeting with their counselors to go through conflicts, meaning courses that they want to take that didn't end up on their schedule. And so we try to meet those needs as we work with the students meet with their counselors. And so that gets us to the end of the year, and then the summer happens. And then we have a lot of kids enrolling at Penn High School over the summer, so we have to make changes to our schedule to look at different needs that students may have. So as you think about this program, it's going to make things a little more efficient for us as a staff as we schedule our students. I'm going to have Rachel Fry come up and give a little more details into how this program will help us.
Good evening. So as I listened to Sean give that overview, it reminds me of this love-hate relationship I have with our master schedule. I know what an important piece this is for every single one of our students, for our teachers. This is how they spend their school year, and we want to make sure everything is just right and that their requests are met and things are in an ideal situation. So some features of Cardonics are listed here. For the students, they're guaranteeing over 90% first choice classes on the first run. Counselors are given time back, which we'll look at a little bit later in terms of the scheduling course conflicts that they would need to work through with students and selecting their second choice or the next best fit that works with their schedules. Teachers have more balanced class sizes to maximize instructional time. As a principal, just transparent staffing and building capacity. And then there are reports that are given back to be data-driven in our decisions as a district on staffing and teacher placement. So the next slide is more wordy than I should ever make a slide. However, this is some of the information that Cardonics has shared with us, so I'll point out a couple of things here and happy to answer questions if any of those arise. One of the things here is talking about just aligning with pathways, making sure that students we're prioritizing them meeting their graduation pathway and getting into those necessary courses depending on their grade levels and their goals. Equitable access and that first choice keeps coming up. So again, we have a lot of course offerings, but making sure that it fits within a student's schedule. Sometimes someone might choose something that certain classes are only offered at certain times and they have to pick their favorite. We hope to be able to avoid that with this software. And it also talks about the master schedule technology being able to help us plan and save the district time and money in terms of efficiency in both the scheduling of teachers and of students. And the biggest one I would say is there on the bottom, building a master schedule in hours versus the month of April and beyond. The snapshot is hard to see, but it comes from Skyward. So currently, if we look at the highlighted line, those are our 10th graders. And really the purpose here is just to show the sheer volume of course requests and also the number of students with conflicted schedules. So again, just focusing on the 10th grade there, we're looking at about 860 students, 337 of them had conflicts, which is about 40%. And those students requested over 13,000 courses. So then the number of hours that our counselors spend meeting with students to talk through which conflicts they had, what they need to prioritize related to their graduation pathway goals and future career goals, and also just sometimes the classes they want to take for fun. And so balancing all of that out, those conversations are important, but if we can do things right on the front end with the help of this program, we want to do that. So what Sean described was that we have been doing what is listed here on the left. So our school information system is Skyward, and we go back and forth. I look at it daily for months, number of course requests that Skyward tells me for every one of those 399 courses, and then go back into our spreadsheet, which the snapshot is what you saw, and make sure that we have the right number of sections, the right number of courses placed at the right time. But then by the next day, the counselors might have met with 200 of the students and worked through some things, or they changed their mind, or they changed their future goals, which they're supposed to, and we support that. But then we're reconfiguring again. And so that back and forth game continues to happen. As a matter of fact, I feel like when I look at that left picture, Cardonics knows my brain and what it goes through each spring, because that's exactly it. So what they're talking about here with Cardonics, if you can see on the right, is that if we front load everything into the program, there's a lot of efficiency that happens automatically and behind the scenes. My favorite feature that I've learned about through this process is that it updates each night automatically, and those things are all done. So I'm not going line by line. And it's a big time saver being able to pour that back into students and our day-to-day operations. So if I'm being honest, it sounds almost too good to be true, and I'm not one to fall for a scam. However, we are grateful for the administration to bring this product to our attention, allowing us to learn about it, ask a lot of questions, and we're here today requesting approval to implement. To summarize, and I think I've hit on all of these things, Cardonics, they are the expert in this field, schedule builder. We've talked to other schools who have used it. We actually have an administrator that we're working with this year who used it as a principal at a different school last year. So a little bit of that inside information has very much helped me to be on board with the true efficiency that it can bring for us. That just-in-time training. So the training that they offer is basically there alongside of us. And because it's supposed to be a quick 2 to 4 day turnaround in developing the schedule, they're there with us through it. And we walk away not getting done with the training and starting it, but getting done with the training and having a master schedule built. And then I mentioned the reports that are available to check on staffing and space efficiency. A couple of slides here, I just stole snapshots from the program itself, although we still have to dive in and learn about it should you approve it. But if you can see out to the right, and I can barely, so you probably cannot, but it just talks about where after some changes on requests or students changing their mind, it would let us know if there was a certain course that was understaffed or overstaffed, basically the number of sections. It's automatically telling us those items. And the tagline for that is every teacher has a section and every section has a teacher. I'd say that's important. It sounds simple, but in a building our size, it isn't always that way. Something else that caught our eye that we pulled out of here is just transparency and equity among classes. So as we continue to build our inclusive practices with our ex-ed students, it has been somewhat of a challenge to make sure our program understands what we're trying to tell it, and I don't think it does. This program is ready to do that, to talk about our co-taught classes, make sure capacity is where it needs to be in terms of the number of students, and it's all clear and there for us. So, 3 awarded patents, several other pending. Cardonics is the most advanced master scheduling technology, and I didn't buy it at first, but after learning and asking questions, I really do. I'm excited for the potential this could bring to us for a lot of different reasons. Thank you.
We're happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Board members, any questions for Mrs. Fry or for Mr. Gallagher?
I do. I've got an easy one. I just want to make 100% sure because you mentioned Skyward twice. This is something internally that Penn staff will be using. It's not another thing we're asking parents to navigate. We're still just doing Skyward and Canvas, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. Thumbs up. We know what that's like. I can't manage a third.
Claire answered my question. Claire asked my question, so.
Second question is, when I look at the bill, I see some costs that appear to be first-time implementation costs. Obviously, the setup and integration probably. Are we going to be paying the training and implementation fee every year? Or is that something that we can expect this first year since we're articulating it for the first time? Just curious. I believe in this stuff.
That's a great question. I don't think we'll be paying forward. At least our hope is not to.
Great. Thanks.
Question related to the training. Mrs. Fry, you may have touched on it, but I just wanted to check. So is the training going to be in person, like next to the counselors, hand over hand kind of thing? Or is this going to be virtual training that is provided?
It is my understanding that they offer both, and it is up to us in terms of how we want that support provided.
I would highly suggest, but I'll leave it up to you all, that it be in person to be able to best answer folks' question. Additionally, I was curious just on the timeline of when this project will actually start so that it is go live when you need it, just from a timing perspective, and I couldn't find it in the contract.
We would like to start as soon as it's approved. So we start the scheduling process in December that I mentioned, but we won't actually start using the program itself until once all students have their schedules in Skyward. So our hope is to probably in the next month set a timeline to get some advanced training before we're actually using it with real data.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the Cardonics agreement with Education Advanced, Inc. for scheduling the 2023-2024 school year for a total cost of $49,981.75 as presented?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Mr. Gallagher, good to see you. Thank you for your work on this. Mrs. Fry, always good to see you, and thank you for your work. And Mr. Hawkins, wherever you are, thank you, sir, for your work on this as well. Board members, any objection if we skip ahead to the operational services action item for consideration of the teacher agreement and then come back to our presentation items? Okay, hearing none, let's skip ahead to item number 11. For anybody following along, we will come back to the instruction items, which are item number 9. Dr. Thacker, for approval of the Penn-Harris-Madison teacher agreement for the time period beginning July 1st, 2022 to June 30, 2023, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. I'm very, very pleased to share that negotiations between the PHM Teacher Association and the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation took place during the month of September 2022. We appreciate the collaborative spirit of PHMTA President Lisa Langfeld and her team. A tentative agreement was reached on Thursday, September 29th, 2022, and the PHMTA membership overwhelmingly ratified the agreement on Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. So here to present the details of the new agreement is Director of Human Resources, Dr. Lisa Sotokop.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. I would like to share our ongoing appreciation for the high quality and dedicated service that our teachers provide. We are fortunate to be surrounded by such strong professionals, and their work does not go unnoticed. I would like to take the opportunity to thank some members in our audience. We're part of the Penn-Harris-Madison Teacher Association bargaining team. I noticed Emily Breeden in the audience. Thank you for your work and dedication. Mrs. Kelly Watts and Mrs. President Lisa Langfeld, thank you for your work and being part of the negotiating team serving Penn-Harris-Madison Teacher Association. In addition, we had our administrative team join this effort for our proposed teacher agreement. I'm pleased to share that our negotiations took place at the end of September. In addition, we had pre-bargaining during the summer months. I'm also happy to let you know that we did have a public hearing. In addition, Teacher Association, 2 meetings with an overwhelmingly positive vote and a public meeting in which we were able to provide explanation and provide an opportunity for any questions and input. Under this agreement, Penn-Harris-Madison starting salary next year will be $44,940. In addition, our new range will be $44,940, and the range again is $77,412. This agreement covers a 1-year period. Again, it covers it from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Teachers beyond the base salary pay rate with an effective or highly effective rating for the 2021 school year will receive a 7% salary increase. In addition, teachers with 1 or more years of experience will receive a one-time stipend of $600. In addition, we will have a 3% increase to all extracurricular positions. We are also confident this agreement moving forward will support our talent and acquisition and retention needs, and that our complete and total compensation package remains a premier offering in our area. This increased starting salary and raise will further elevate Penn-Harris-Madison and allow us to remain highly competitive in our current market. And I would be glad to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Board members, any questions for Dr. Sotokop? Hearing none, do I have a
I
motion
have
to
a quick question, more of a comment, but I brought it up during the public hearing, and I just want to reiterate it again that I know that EAs are not part of this bargaining class, as this is a teacher bargaining agreement. But I do think that with the number of open EA positions that we have, and also the pay that we provide, especially on our elementary levels, that we really need to look at increases for our EA staffs.
Thank you. Again, this is our teacher bargaining agreement. We do, just to make you aware, we did meet with the custodial bargaining unit just recently, as recent as last week, and we have a vote in place next Saturday, but we did reach a tentative agreement for custodians. We're also meeting with mechanics and maintenance, in addition to our ESP group, which also includes our EAs.
Thank you, Mr. Turnwald and Dr. Sotokop for your answer. Do I have a motion to approve the agreement between the PHM Teachers Association and the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30, 2023 as presented.
I so move.
A second?
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Soto Kyle, don't go anywhere just yet. Thank you so much for your team. Thank you also, Lisa Langfeld, making sure that our teachers are compensated at the highest rate geographically helps us to retain them and to attract new teachers. You have done an outstanding job ensuring that we're going to get the highest quality educators that we can get. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. Thank you to our Teachers Association. This is a well-deserved and overdue increase in your compensation. Thank you for everything that you continue to do for us and for our kids. The board's congratulations to all involved. Thank you so much. Let's backtrack and move to instruction report items, which appears on your agenda under item number 9. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you very much, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Okay, we're going to be moving forward to hear a focus on instruction at Meadows Edge by an amazingly talented couple of educators. And that'll be our principal, Gary Gardner, and Emily Breeden. Welcome, Mr. Gardner.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. I'm excited to be with you this evening and share about the great things happening up the road at Meadows Edge Elementary as we work on accelerating learning and showing progress. Everything starts with having a focus. This is entering year 4 for me out at Meadows Edge, and so I think consistently our plan has been, how do we make sure that we are strong in our initial instruction? Our focus is to provide strong instruction that allows students to outperform expected growth and achieve at or above grade level. So we're consistently looking at not only their growth, but also their proficiency measures. How do we do that? Begins with intentional planning and programming at all levels, a strong and consistent tier 1 instruction at the classroom level, detailed data analysis when we move into the tier 2 level and we talk about interventions, continuous progress monitoring. So it's not about what we do and then let's just wait and see. It's about monitoring throughout that entire process. Are we making progress? Where are the wins? Where are the areas of challenge? And then how do we reassess and make changes to address those needs? And then finally, the last one is celebration of progress. The work that we do is incredibly challenging. I think it's really important that we take time as we see those wins and that progress, that we celebrate that piece, knowing that we are on a continual road to achievement. But along the way, there are some pieces that we have to, as we say, sometimes knock steps over in order to continue moving forward. So that's really important to us as we talk about our growth in our building. I know Mr. Towner talked a little bit during his presentation about the tiered levels of instruction. So it's this graph here as a cylinder. Tier 1 is the foundation of that. So it's what happens every day in the classroom. Every student in the building receives tier 1 instruction. It's our core instruction. For our reading block, we're mandatory a 90-minute block for our students. We do 110 minutes or more at our K2, knowing that we have to get that foundational piece of reading strong in order to be performing at the higher levels when we get to the iLearn assessment on grades 3 through 5. Tier 2 is in addition to tier 1. So we have about 40% of our students who get pulled out for tier 2, which we call win time, what I need time. It's a 40-minute block that meets at least 4 days a week. That is led by our team of interventionists. We have a reading specialist and 2 certified interventionists, as well as our teaching assistants, as well as in the classroom, our classroom teachers. So we really work on using that time to address needs of students who need remediation, as well as providing some enrichment or movement of students who are on grade level to help continue further them as they proceed. And then tier 3 is the top level. That's in addition to those first 2. Our tier 3 students would be students who have an individualized education plan. So that's going to be our students who have IEPs or ILPs. So when we talk about assessments and monitoring learning, I think it's really important to know that there's a few ways to look at that data. We have obviously the summative assessment, which is the iLearn data, which probably has the most conversation around it. And that happens in our grades 3 through 5. And it tells us students who are achieving at grade level expectations. We also in our buildings use formative assessments or assessments that are given more frequently, especially in our K2 classrooms. So DIBELS is what we use throughout the district. Dibbles is given at beginning, middle, and end of year. So we get 3 benchmarks to see whether you are or aren't on grade level or expectation at that period in time. But then it also includes a progress monitoring piece to that. So throughout that, from beginning to middle of the year, we're not just waiting to see whether or not we perform better at the next level, but you're doing progress monitoring throughout to check individual skills. And then with that, it allows us to do individual skills that are once mastered to move to the next level of skill. So it allows us to monitor that student learning is really happening so that when we get to that middle of the year, we're already anticipating those results. So the encouraging thing of the progress monitoring is we know that we're headed in the right direction rather than hoping we're in the right direction. So it really provides some of that affirmation or confirmation. So when we talk about that assessment data, it's really looking at the summative pieces, but also those formative pieces that allow us to inform instruction that happens at the classroom level. So we think about the starting line. For us, kindergarten is the first time kids enter the building. So the starting line for Meadows Edge would be that beginning of the year kindergarten assessment, which all of our students take early on. Looking back to last year, that is scored in red, yellow, greens, or blue. Green or blue is where we want to get our students to be performing. Meadows Edge had 59% of their kindergartners scoring in the red or well below proficient as they entered our buildings for the first time. At the district level, it was 33%. So when we think of the starting line, we are 26 points behind on day 1. So our goal is to take that information and then dig into that and figure out where are those skills that we're behind and how do we start knocking those over to be able to move to close that gap. As we look at our K2 students who take that DIBELS assessment, it was 41% of our students started last year in the red or well below proficient. Looking to this August, so a year ahead, exciting news, we were at 51%, which is a 13% gap closing of us from the district average, which is half of what it was last year. So our goal is to be able to start closer to that, and then as we talk data, you'll see that we're closing those gaps so that we can eventually take that line. We would love to be setting the standard as well. So our goal is to get to the line and then exceed that district average. So you might be thinking, when we start with that many students who are struggling through that entry point into the building, what do we do? So we talk about response to intervention. Response to intervention is a team that meets every week on Mondays. We met today on our 3rd graders. We look at data, we look at progress, we look at interventions. So 10 of us sit outside in our second portable, our cottage out back, and we talk about where are we at, where are these students moving, and how are we proceeding forward. We make individualized plans for them that we share with our parents, and then monitor that intervention piece moving forward. It is an incredible team of staff working together. It includes our 3 interventionists, our school psychologists, our 2 exceptional education teachers, our administrative team, and then the classroom teacher, along with our YSB and sometimes our speech teacher and other auxiliary positions. From that, we look at our win time, which is that 40-minute period that we talked about that we do 4 to 5 times a week. So what are they doing in there? It's great to have time set aside, but if what we do during that time isn't impactful, then we have to go back and figure out how to change that. So we talk about what's happening during that time, and then we look at the progress monitoring data to say, is it working? And then from there, we say, where are we at today? When we meet again in 8, 10, 12 weeks, what should the goal be? And where do students need to be at that point in time to say that we're truly accelerating that learning? So those meetings happen every Monday. Then those students go back into the WIN groups. They participate with the teams of folks that I talked about, and we're using the interventions, foundations, Hegarty, geodes, focused math, just words. We also use a program called 6-Minute Solution. I know Ms. Shrippa talked about fluency and the impact of that on comprehension. 6-Minute Solution is a fluency intervention that is typically used through the RTI process. At Meadows Edge, we made the decision last year to do that with every single one of our students in grades 3 through 5. The reason being, why wait till we get outside to say, hey, we need this intervention? If we know that we have kids at risk who need fluency intervention, we're not waiting till you get recommended to RTI. We're putting that piece in place at the tier 1 level. So every one of our classrooms has 6-Minute Solution in place. We monitor that fluency piece, and then we progress monitor that with our students in grades 3 through 5. This is a collage of pictures of our interventions in action. So you get a chance to see some of them are progress monitoring. The top 3 on the upper right there are our 3 interventionists. Brady Heater is our reading specialist. Rachel Givens is our interventionist. This is her 2nd year with us. And then we were able to add a new position this year with Erin Martin, and excited to have her join that interventions team. So then we have to say, like, we have it all in place, but is it working? And so we talked about that progress monitoring piece. So if we look back to last school year, from beginning of the year composite, which takes all of their DIBELS information and gives them an overall score, to their end of year, Dibbles tells us what a student should grow, how many points are at what rate. And then it tells us at the end of the year, did they meet expected growth or not? I'm happy to say that we had 74% of our kindergartners exceed expected growth on that assessment. 68% of first graders, 59% of second graders. That does not mean that every student who started red finished green, because starting red and exceeding growth, you may finish yellow. So we are not yet where we want to be on the proficiency end, but there's no way to get to the proficiency end if you don't accelerate growth. So if you ask our staff and you talk in our building, you will hear people talk about, for us, growing 1 year in 1 year's time, although average and expected growth can't be our goal. We must truly accelerate it, and we can't just do it in kindergarten. It has to happen in K1, 2 in order to get to third grade, so we're able to be ready for iRead and then build those really critical comprehension and analysis skills as we look at iLearning grades 3 through 5. When we get to the finish line, so we worked all year last year on that. It was our first year of doing win time. I'm happy to report that at the end of the year, we were down to 19% of our students who were in the well below. And that had closed the district average from 26% behind to 10% behind. So we closed it by a 16-point gap there. We're still not where we want to be, but we are certainly headed in the right direction. And I will tell you that that is only as a result of incredible work from classroom teachers to aides to support staff to, as well as our students and our families. The energy and effort that they put in to support learning and work with us is truly exceptional. As we look at those data points in the last 2 years, so we've got 6 data points, 3 for K1, 2, and then the second year, 3 for K1, 2 again. We have cut the gap between Meadows Edge performance at the beginning of the year and district average by end of year in half, and 5 out of 6 of those grade levels. And I think we were fairly close. It was first grade, if I remember correctly, last year that we just missed that mark. So continuing to make positive growth, which we hope to see as these students move through our building, will show up then on our iLearn proficiency as well. We had a 26% increase in the percentage of K2 students who finished last year on grade level. That then takes us to the grade 3 through 5 summative assessment, which is going to be the iLearn assessment. So this table here just indicates Meadows Edge performance in relationship to Indiana State average. I will tell you when that data comes back, we look at that from many lenses. One of them is, are we outperforming the state, which we expect to do each and every year? Unfortunately, we had not done that last year in our 5th grade group. So we went back and looked at some of the things that we were doing, used that information to address needs this year, 2 years ago, and then this past year we were able to outperform in all of those areas. So that's kind of a starting point. We also look at, are we outperforming the year prior? We look at cohort data. We also look at PHM district average data. So we're using that on multiple benchmarks to try to see, are we truly making the progress that we want? Because our goal is to get to where we need to be and then be able to sustain that based on the programming and processes that we have in place. This graph here shows where Meadows Edge is in comparison to other schools across the state of Indiana. So there are 72 data points on that graph. Meadows Edge is considered rural, middle third enrollment, middle third poverty. We were in the top 26% for language arts proficiency and in the top 18% for math proficiency. So we are in that upper right corner. Our goal is to continue to move that area. And we truly believe that the things that we have in place will continue to help us do that as we look to the years ahead. As I said, it could not be done without the support of an incredible team of teachers. I am happy to have Emily Breeden with us this year, who is a new assistant to the principal coming to us from Walt Disney. She has been phenomenal in bringing some ideas to us, but then continuing some of the things that are in place. We have a phenomenal staff. We have great aides. We have just a truly remarkable little place tucked away in the cornfields, as I like to say, but doing really great things. And I assure you that we are working hard to continue to accelerate learning, close gaps, and be a leader in the district. And with that, I'm just thankful for your continued support. We've been able to add another interventionist this year, which has allowed us to provide additional students the opportunity to work with a certified teacher in small groups. And we've been able to just continue to move things and feel like we have some things in place that hopefully will continue to pay off as we move forward. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer this.
I have a couple questions. And thank you, Mr. Gardner, by the way, for your presentation. It's very informative. So when kindergartners are coming to Meadows Edge, on the Dibbles test, they are testing below expectations. And I think you used the term well below.
Correct.
Is that a quantitatively defined term?
So there are benchmark scores within each of those ranges. So there's a goal at the end of red, at the end of yellow, at the end of green, at the end of blue. So blue is above. So it's well below, below, at, and then above.
Okay.
So there's numerical values within.
Right.
So wherever that beginning of the year score is, it's falling within the red level.
Okay, that's what I was driving at. So well below is not just a vague term. There are actually quantitative categories for these descriptions.
Correct. And it's a set of subtests. So they take all of those numbers collectively to create that composite, which is the overall score.
And Dibbles as it is administered when in the kindergarten year?
So this year we moved it up, I think, a week. I'm going to say we probably start around week 2 or 3, and it's about a month-long window.
Okay.
And then we'll administer them again. I believe it's January, right when we return, and then April.
So more or less, essentially, when a student enrolls in kindergarten at Meadows Edge, the Dibbles is administered.
Yes.
And then by year's end, that's when the amount of growth is measured. Is that correct?
So it's actually measured at so beginning to middle of year as a growth pattern, middle to end of year as a growth pattern, and then beginning to end of year as a growth pattern. So you actually can look at that 3 different ways.
And when the kindergartners who are coming in well below expectations on their Dibbles, 74% of them are exceeding expected growth. Is that by the end of the year?
Yes, that was beginning to end, and that was on the composite, which was the collective assessment, not one sub-skill, but the entire thing.
That's quite an accomplishment. Thank you very much. And thank you to our interventionists as well. You know, when we take academic criteria and use terms for it, it's not always easy to exactly understand statistically what that means. But your presentation has shown that our teachers, our interventionists, and you and the administration over at Meadows Edge are doing one heck of a job in terms of getting these kids who are coming in and they're not prepared for kindergarten. By the time their kindergarten year concludes, this is an amazing statistic.
And I would give a shout out to our teaching assistants who are an incredible part of that team. Their jobs changed greatly last year as we added this position, and there was a little bit of uneasiness and nerves. Many of our TAs have been with us for a long period of time. And so our interventionists supported them in that. The district dyslexia specialist supported them in that. And that positive progress monitoring and growth celebration has greatly impacted their celebrations in the building and also made a difference in the classroom, right? Like we are seeing that pay off, which makes that transition way easier, even though we know it's been hard work.
Well, it's an amazing statistical swing. They have cause to celebrate. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Principal
Gardner.
Gardner.
One quick question. Mr. Gardner, when I was at Meadows Edge, I believe I observed the 6-minute solution, students reading to each other
Yes,
and paying
in
attention.
third grade.
In 3rd grade. I applaud you for being proactive rather than reactive and waiting for students to show that they're falling behind and lifting all those boats with that strategy. So I appreciate that you mentioned it tonight. Mrs. Gates and I were just talking about this. Where is the nearest preschool? PHM preschool program?
So I don't know. I know that we.
Elsie Rogers?
It'll be Elm Road.
Okay.
Elm
The
Road.
Penn Pals or the.
So this is, I'm sure you're going to say yes, but I just have to ask a question. Do you feel like the PHM quality preschool program would be of benefit to the incoming kindergartners?
So we would love to have that gap at the beginning
No
of the year be
space.
smaller than it currently is. And so any supports that we could put in place to help that at-home learning before they enter it at age 5 or 6 is certainly going to be advantageous as that starting point.
The new building that's coming to Meadows Edge, that includes potential capacity for preschool, or no, you are going to fill that space up the minute we build it?
There are 6 classrooms being added. 4 of them will be used immediately.
Okay.
The other 2 will be a project activity room with a removable wall in the middle. We've never had that space to take a large group of students, so we're looking forward to that opportunity. There's not a lot of excess space there. We're going to use it right away, but certainly we could look at that as we move forward.
It's an ambitious idea,
Yeah.
and I know very complicated, but certainly something perhaps we should consider. Thank you for your time and thoughtfulness. Thank you.
Principal Gardner, as a proud Meadows Edge Hawk, I do believe I see some of our excellent teaching staff that are here in the back row. And I don't know if you wanted to take a minute to embarrass them and introduce them.
So Rachel Gibbons is one of our interventionists. Emily Williams is a 5th grade teacher. Katie French is a 3rd grade teacher. And then is it Alexa? Alexis is a student teacher with Emily in 5th grade and hopefully to be a PHM teacher at some point in time.
We look forward to welcoming you aboard,
Yeah.
Alexis.
Just a quick question. I know that we broke ground. How's construction going on the new building so we can get rid of those cottages, at least for non-storage purposes?
They dug the half the construction paveway today and put rock down. So the fencing was up last week on Monday. We've started to adjust some entry and exit points in the building, and I'm sure the kids will be super excited in the weeks to come as bigger equipment is on site.
I look forward to Miss Clays and Miss Givens and all of those to have proper teaching learning spaces.
I have a couple questions. When they take the DIBELS test coming in at elementary or the kindergarten, is this a test that's universal in the state of Indiana? Or, I mean, we take DIBELS and then some other school corporation uses another test to determine where the students are coming in to kindergarten.
So I don't know. So I had prior experience at Elkhart who did use DIBELS. I don't think they do any longer. I don't know how many districts across the state use DIBELS. It is.
My question is this: you say we're 57% below expectations. Who says that?
It's nationally normed.
Is that state standard in Indiana?
District-wide, isn't it used by all of our elementary buildings?
Yes.
District-wide?
Is it nationally normed?
I do believe DIBELS is nationally normed.
Yeah.
So all of the DIBELS results across the country are then
Yeah.
used to help determine where the red, yellow, green. And
So it takes a huge collection of that, not like just Penn, but like everybody who's done, right? They take all of that data and say, based on kids who score a 6 at the beginning of the year, we would expect them to grow to a 22 by middle of the year. And if you exceed that, then that's the outperforming. So I would believe that would be nationally set by the DIBELS, right? The product, like based on their data.
4-year-olds across the country.
Yes, that's what I just. 4-year-olds across the country.
I was wondering if there are other programs that the other schools use that are similar or different, or as far as use different tests, would it come out different? Which really, it just gives us a starting.
Yeah, and I would say if we look at our DIBELS numbers and then compare that to our 3 through 5 Eiler numbers, there's some pretty good comparisons there in terms of, as I said, it's about 50% on grade level. That's probably hitting where we're at. So we want to use that to build that next number bigger.
To know where to start.
Yep.
Now, my second question is, in the WIN program, you had the students come out for what I need. Are they being, do you have enough teachers or aides or whoever's working at that point? Do you have enough staffing to make sure that these kids are taken care of? Is there any problem with that? Or?
We will always take more help. We have maxed out every person we have. So we use every teaching assistant, every instructional interventionist. So we run, I'm going to say maybe 9 groups at the moment. Those groups are typically 6, a little bit larger in the reading lab, but usually 6 or 4 to 8. 40% of our kids leave during WIN time, and we have a different time for every grade level. So that allows us to be able to meet across every grade level, so that our interventionist is able to do 6 groups, plus then we can add a math group in if we have the ability to do that during a math block.
All I can say is your scheduling and your accommodation for all your students is amazing. So great job, you guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Gardner, thank you so much. Absolutely excellent presentation. You pour your heart and your soul into this job. It's apparent. You have great people working with you. They pour their hearts and souls into it. It's apparent. Thank you for all the success that you're helping to bring about over at Meadows Edge. And Alexis, I can't help but to make one last pitch for PHM. Not only do you get to work with these wonderful educators, but as of tonight, your starting salary is going to be the best in this geographic region. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care of yourself. Dr. Thacker, report on exceptional education.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. A team of ex-ed staff and administration presented at an iCase conference recently about PHM's use of sensory rooms. And so joining us tonight is Director of Exceptional Education, Ms. Jenna Todd, as well as Registered Occupational Therapist, Mrs. Erin Grover. They're going to present for us an overarching description of PHM's practice of inclusion and highlight communication tools such as the communication boards at some of the elementary school playgrounds, as well as some of the sensory rooms that have been set up in all 15 of our schools. Welcome, Ms. Todd.
Thank you. Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board. It's always my pleasure to be up here and talking about the great work that our entire staff in Gen Ed and Ex Ed are doing to meet the needs of our students. Oh, good, it's up there. So I'm just going to talk briefly about inclusion and the law and make it clear that we have always aligned our services of inclusion with the federal law from the Office of Special Ed at the national level. The Office of Special Ed mission statement is to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access. And that's where myself and our staff come in, is making sure all of our students have the access that they need. So out of that law, it is known as IDEA or IDEA, which is the Individual with Disabilities Act. And that's a law that offers a free and appropriate education to all students, regardless of their disabilities, through the nation, and make sure that they get all the related services that they need in order to meet each of their needs. So I want to talk for a minute about least restrictive environment, which is part of IDEA, and is, IDEA has been revised many times over the years since 1975 when it was passed. One of the biggest revisions in the 90s was the creation of least restrictive environment. Define, that means to the maximum extent appropriate, students with disabilities are educated with non-disabled peers. That's what drives our inclusive practices that are so strong here in PHM. The second part of least restrictive environment in terms of definition sort of challenges us to find a way, no matter what the student's disability, no matter how significant it is, no matter how many needs they have. Our challenge is to keep them in the general ed setting, bring all of those services to the student so that they aren't segregated and they aren't separated from the rest of the population. So that drives us to inclusive education, and there's probably nothing I love talking more about than inclusion, unless maybe it's behavior, but looking at some of the data, it shows us that students, when they're included, have more access to the general curriculum and effective instruction. They achieve at a higher rate of academic performance, and of course they acquire better social and behavioral outcomes. This is what we want for all students, and I'll speak to that in just a moment. In general education, one of the astounding statistics that we see is that when students are in general education with disabilities, they are 23 times more likely to have one-to-one instruction versus them being segregated from others. So you can imagine what an incredible difference that makes in the lives of a student that has additional challenges to the everyday challenges of school. The great thing about inclusion is that it also benefits students that are in the general education setting, and we see this over and over in our inclusive classrooms throughout the district. Our inclusive classrooms begin at age 2.5 in our Penn Pals preschool programs, which we have 4, and I feel like Claire might be inching to make that a little more than 4. Some of the benefits for students without disabilities per research is that they score comparable or greater in math and reading. And I believe you heard a board presentation earlier this year from Amy Zimmer and her co-teaching partners where the students in biology outscored peers. Increased comfort and awareness of differences. Of course, if we're not ever exposed to differences, we don't know what to do with differences when we come across them in life. Growth in social cognition, improvement in self-concept, which we always want for all students, regardless of their abilities. Increased development of friendships, greater empathy, and they do acquire new skills. They learn various signs for sign language. They might learn assistive technology for a student that doesn't have language. And of course, they learn tutoring skills, and that's one of the biggest pluses for that. Another study shows that involving peers in tutoring or mentoring relationships can have positive outcomes for students with and without disabilities. We see this every single day in our co-teaching classes. We see this every single day in our peer leaders program that started at the high school, that has been in existence for 20 years and has now, this year we started at all 3 of our middle schools. So we have typically developing peers pairing up with students with disabilities, taking them to their electives, spending time with each other. Kind of reminds me of the PALS program they're doing here. I forget what it's called, but same idea. One of the ways that we have to work when our students are included is if they have behavior problems. I know we'd like to think that we don't have any behavior problems, but once in a while we do. We have such a great team of professionals that work together in Ex-Ed and Gen Ed, and Gary spoke to this earlier about the response to intervention process that every building has. Through that process, we're able to gather lots of data to look at the behavior, just like we would gather data when we're looking at achievement in any other subject. Teachers, psychologists, OTs, PTs, speech, administrators, Gen Ed, Ex-Ed, everybody works together on developing and implementing a plan based on the analysis of the behavior to put an intervention and plan in place that supports that student in the general ed classroom. A huge part of behavior is understanding the message. What we know is that behavior is communication. No matter how a person is behaving, negative or positive, they're saying something. And so our professionals' job is to figure out what it is. What does the student need that they either can't say, can't express? Once we figure that out, those interventions become very effective. Another one of my very favorite interventions that we have are our district sensory rooms. And these are a well-hidden secret. Aaron, come on up. Aaron Grover, one of our fabulously talented OTs, is here to talk to you a little bit more about how our sensory rooms work in helping us with some of our behavioral issues. Maybe this.
President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to share about sensory rooms within the PHM school district. Each school, elementary through high school, has space slotted for a sensory room. These designated spaces are utilized to help students achieve the movement and feedback that their bodies need to be optimal learners in the classroom. Sensory rooms are utilized to facilitate organization, self-regulation skills, relaxation, and sensory awareness. Each sensory room is equipped with a variety of activities. Activities may be calming in nature, or they may challenge the student's sensory system so that they develop better regulation skills. Sensory rooms can be used for students with and without disabilities. There are multiple benefits of using a sensory room for students. First, they provide sensory stimulation. A student can engage and explore a variety of sensory activities. They also enhance learning and play. Sensory stimulation can engage different areas of the brain. Using sensory rooms can improve balance, movement, and spatial orientation. They help with important skills needed in the classroom, such as developing a student's visual processing abilities, fine and gross motor skills, and motor planning skills. These skills are all necessary to become a successful learner. Also, sensory rooms can be used as a tool to proactively avert negative behaviors. They provide a place of comfort and calm for overactive, easily distressed students so they are ready to learn. They also help inactive students wake up their bodies so that they are ready to learn. The zones of regulation is a tool that is used in sensory rooms to help students understand where their bodies may be at the start and at the end of a sensory break. The goal is to always have a student end a break in the green zone. Many general education classrooms use the zones verbiage, and all ex-ed staff carry a zones visual on their name badge. The use of zones, visuals, and sensory rooms is cohesive with other learning areas. The next few pictures are of the sensory room at Walt Disney Elementary to show in more detail how a space is comprised. The first section of the room is often used for movement opportunities. Students may use a trampoline, crash pad, slide, sit and spin, tape mazes, ball bounces, and additional activities to fulfill the students' need for movement. The next picture shows various tactile activities that the student may use for calming as well as to build motor skills. Lastly, there's a calm down area where students can have a chance to relax with as much external stimulus removed as possible. Sensory regulation is essential for learning. It is the base of the pyramid of learning. Students must have opportunities to regulate their sensory systems so that they can be successful in the classroom. Occupational therapists in the district set up, monitor, and devise plans for students to utilize the sensory rooms. During this school year, we are working to add innovative options to our spaces to continue to meet students' needs in a variety of ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. We love those spaces, and those are so important to so many of our students. I want to just continue on with our behavior supports before we finish up here. And not only do we use sensory rooms and some of the methods we discussed for proactive measures for behavior, we also have reactive approaches in place. We use a research-based method called CPI, Crisis Prevention Institute. This is used across not only the nation, but the world. It's a nonviolent crisis intervention that teaches staff de-escalation techniques. Our support staff are trained in a 6-hour course, and our certified staff are trained in a 12-hour course. Every single one of our buildings has a team with 2-day and 1-day trained people to respond in the event of behavior. We have 8 in-district trainers in the district, and we can do that all in-house. I just retired after 20 years of being a CPI trainer when I turned 60. That was my gift to myself, I guess. So this just brings us to where, with inclusive practices and where we rate within the Department of Ed and Office of Special Ed. Once again, I'm pleased to announce that we're in the highest category of meeting all of our requirements for least restrictive environment inclusive practices. We're very proud of that. That takes a great effort on the with administrators, with gen ed teachers, with ex-ed staff, educational assistants, you name it, everybody's in on this work. Those ratings are coming out of the Department of Ed and the Office, National Office of Special Education. So just a few of our inclusive practices. And we have a long list of these, but these are some of the highlights. So every student is in their neighborhood school, as they should be, so that they grow up with the same students they go to school with. Our inclusive programming begins at preschool. goes into elementary school with push-in services versus pull-out, segregated services, co-taught classes at the middle and high schools now. High school, this year we doubled our efforts. Last year was our first year in the high school. Our peer leaders program at middle and high school, and then of course our ongoing installation of inclusive devices on our playgrounds, and that some of those additions have been really exciting. We're appreciative to Joe and Aaron and facilities for those wonderful gifts. And I just want to end with a short clip from one of our parents who's kind of in a unique situation here at Penn. And how do I get that to play? Or can you do it? Tech can do it. Oh, I hear the voice, but I don't see anything. Oh, while he's trying to cue that up, we'd be happy to entertain any questions for Aaron or myself.
So, quick question, as a parent who has a child on an IEP in inclusive education, first, thank you, because I agree that PHM does have some of the most inclusive education around, and we've had an amazing team around us over the last
I'm a teacher
5
here
years.
at Penn High School.
James, why don't you go ahead and finish?
Okay, my quick question was more related to our EAs in relation to the training that they receive. Are they offered training programs prior to starting their day? You know, have we ever thought of having 2-day sessions like we do with our teachers as welcome back to the school year to provide them with training and skills? Or is it largely for our EAs on the job training?
I would say that it used to be on the job training by the teacher of record as they come in and figure out which students they're going to be working with and training on that specific student. But I will tell you that in recent years, we've tried to offer our crisis prevention, de-escalation strategies class 6 hours. We do that in the summer prior to school starting for our new hires. We also put our new hires through our autism training. This year, we did not offer that before school started, but that goes throughout the year, and they're always invited and certainly attend those as they go. Those are the two big areas, behavior and autism. And then I would say the rest of our professional development with our EAs is done by the teacher when they request PD periods of time, say on short weeks, like fall break, when there's only 4 days, they keep them after and fill some of those hours with professional development. We do also have some online training. That wasn't as big a hit as we were hoping it would be. I just don't think they probably want to go home and train like strange people like all of us do. But so that's always something we're working on, how and when to train our educational assistants.
Yeah, because I mean, if we're offering training during the school day, that means that they're not able to be with their students. So
Exactly.
I understand the challenge.
Yep.
The other question I had on the sensory rooms, is that a building by building funding decision based on the principal? I know a number of different sensory rooms across their different elementaries have received educational foundation funds, but I just wondered if there's a base level of consistency or funding for each of those sensory rooms.
Yeah, so in the past, that's come out of the ex-ed budget. When we established the rooms right after we split in the co-op in 2015, I spent the first 3 years buying in layers the things that we would need for the sensory rooms. That's what we're doing now. We're resetting and sort of have some more state of the art, and we are able to use some of the rescue plan money to purchase that for all 15 buildings. But I will tell you the individual buildings, sometimes the principals will offer to buy things out of their budget, which we greatly appreciate. The more we can buy, the more we have, right? And then I was just talking to Lindsay, Aaron and I were before the meeting, and she was asking, could she still do a grant to have that funded, even though we're buying all those things. And so we'll just compare lists. I know that the foundation is enthusiastic about supporting that. So we love it when people apply for the grant, get it. The more funds we have, the more we can put in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron or myself? Jim?
Let's, go ahead.
My daughter, when my daughter volunteered in high school and helped out with the special ed program, we still have a lot of volunteers from the population that volunteer with students have the program at all.
Yeah, we still have that, the peer leaders program at the high school. Is that what you're speaking to? Yes. And I think I put in one of my board notes this week, to my delight, many of those peer leaders that volunteer, and they do get a credit for the class and work with students. They often go to school and get their special education license, and then I stalk them and hire them. So it works out really well for us. Yeah, wonderful to see that work.
I suggest we take a look at your video before we forget.
Oh, sorry, Randy. I got distracted.
In the Exceptional Education Division, but I'm also a mom, and that is my first and favorite job. Aiden and Jordan are my sons. They both have disabilities. For both of my boys, they have been fully included in every field trip, every activity, every special class, everything that their peers are doing. And as a mom, I can see it benefiting my kids, but I also see how it benefits other kids. Jordy has friends that help push him around if he needs to use his walker to get to a class, a buddy pushes his wheelchair there for him. And for Aiden as well, he's had peers in every class that have really stepped up to help him. So he's been in all his gen ed classes. He's starting to make friends. That social skill aspect is really hard for him. He's growing, but not just my boys, everyone around them who is experiencing what it's like to deal with someone different than you. So not only are we helping our kids who have special needs, but we are teaching compassion and inclusion to everyone who comes in contact with them.
Parent to work with, but she's also a fabulous teacher at the high school for exceptional ed. All right, that's all we have. Thank you so much.
Well, don't go so fast. I just want to tell you something. You sit in this seat or any of these seats up here, and you cast over the course of years hundreds, maybe thousands of votes, and you see words on paper and don't always appreciate the importance, the significance of those words on paper. I had seen the words sensory room many times and had never seen one. And for anybody here in the audience who has never seen a PHM sensory room, I'm speaking to you because the words sensory room don't adequately convey what has been done in these rooms. Having gone in one recently, I was utterly dumbstruck at how incredible it was. I didn't have any words to say, and had asked that this be highlighted as an example of the accomplishments under your leadership. These rooms are incredibly well thought out. They are thought out for all circumstances for our kids who are having needs. I just want to express my appreciation to the both of you, Ms. Grover and Mrs. Todd. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing from top to bottom for our kids with exceptional needs. The program is truly, as the name implies, exceptional. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Okay, thank you again, Dr. Thacker, Jenna Todd, and we're going to move on to our next business action item, which, if you're following along with your agenda, is item 11.02, which is the Capital Building Improvement Projects. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Aaron Linsky, will present the next business action item for us this evening with the awarding of bids for some capital improvement projects.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley and members of the Board of School Trustees. You have 6 items for consideration this evening. The first is for the renewal of the district trash service.
There you go.
Maybe I'll get a little closer.
There you go.
The first is for the renewal of the district trash service contract. The administration solicited bids from local vendors and received 4. Based on the bids received, we recommend awarding to the lowest, most responsive bidder, Waste Management of Indiana LLC, for our trash and recycling needs at $8,765.26 per month. Waste Management is the current vendor for the school district. The term of the contract is for 1 year with the option for PHM to renew for an additional 2 years based on the contractor's performance. Included in your bid packet, included in your board packet, were the bid document and the tabulation sheets. The second is for the Penn High School soccer field multi-purpose improvement. As you may recall, this project was previously approved in 2019, but ultimately delayed due to the pandemic. The administration, in collaboration with Mr. Mike Ship, principal architect and project manager with Fanning Howie, and Stephen Torbeck, a senior field consultant with the Moats Group, LLC, have defined soccer field improvements for Penn High School for the summer of 2023. This includes replacing the natural surface with a synthetic turf and also fencing improvements. We are utilizing an Indiana-approved educational shopping cooperative, that's IAESC. Therefore, the administration recommends awarding a state bid contract to the Moats Group, LLC, for a base bid of $1,297,554, and also accepting alternate number 1 for a $25,000 allowance for additional markings and letterings, for a total award of $1,322,554. If approved, the anticipated construction would begin in May 2023 with an expected completion date by August 2023. Including the board packet are the bid summary and the concept drawing. The third award is for HVAC improvements at Elsie Rogers, Prairie Vista, Elm Road, Moran Elementary Schools. The administration, in collaboration with Schmidt Associates, solicited bids for HVAC improvements at Elsie, Prairie Vista, Elm Road, Moran. This complete scope of this capital improvement varies on the existing site conditions. This includes adding air conditioning to the gymnasium and portions of the student cafeteria, kitchen, and other connected areas that do not currently have cooling. The bids include associated interior finishes, ceiling work, plumbing, and electrical work. PHM solicited bids and received 2 from local contractors. The administration recommends awarding to the lowest, most responsive bidder, Dynamic Mechanical Services, for a base bid of $976,793 and an alternate number 4 for $654,787 for a total award of $1,631,580. Included in the board packet was a letter of recommendation from Schmidt and the bid tabulation sheet. If approved, a timeline would be created, and it's our intention to install these this summer 2023 and have that completed prior to the start of the school year. The fourth item is a recommendation for awarding the 2022-23 snow removal contract. The administration requests approval for awarding snow removal contracts to supplement the district's maintenance staff servicing parking lots and drives. The goal is to reduce cost, increase our staff's productivity, and continue providing outstanding snow removal services to our schools. Bids were solicited from 8 contractors, and the district received 2. The administration recommends awarding to the lowest, most responsive bidder for each school site. For Madison, Elm Road, Grissom, and Meadows Edge, the administration recommends awarding to Thompson Landscape Services for the defined amount in the bid packet. These prices vary between $300 to $525 per site per snowfall for 1 to 6 inches of snow. For Prairie Vista, Mary Frank, and North Point, the district recommends awarding to MAC Properties for the defined amounts in the bid packet. These prices vary between $234.24 to $468.48 per site per snowfall for 1 to 8 inches. The bids also identify surcharges for fuel prices, storm rates, and supplemental services as requested. The vendors will use their own equipment, and the service will provide and support, and more importantly, provide a reprieve for our maintenance crew during those long winter storms, which occasionally in northern Indiana we have. The board packet included a letter of recommendation from our facilities department, bid tabulation, and quotes from the recommended vendors. The fifth item is a change order at the Penn High School Campus Improvement Project. The administration recommends approval for change order number 1 for Zykowski and Construction for $75,745.98. This includes a credit for changes to header beams, an additional cost to increase the size of the concrete bleacher pads to improve accessibility and use, and improvements to site condition, including the addition of riprap, guardrails, landscape planting, and some grading to prevent future erosion and unsafe conditions. Finally, the sixth and final request is for approval to purchase non-bus vehicle replacements. There was one change from the original board packet you received on Thursday. We had to delete one vehicle that's no longer available for us to purchase. The administration recommends, therefore, recommends purchasing 2 non-bus replacement service vehicles. Due to market conditions, the district cannot currently purchase through any kind of state bid build process we typically like to use. Adding to this challenge, as I discussed, is that the inventory of dealerships changes daily. Therefore, quotes were solicited for multiple dealers in the local and regional area who currently have the desired vehicles in stock that have similar features and specifications to the service vehicles that we currently utilize. The administration recommends purchasing 2 2023 2500 Dodge Ram cargo vans with a high roof from your Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Plainfield for $50,580.25 each for a total award of $101,160.50. That includes title and document fees. Vehicles will replace 2 current service vehicles that have served the district from anywhere between 14 to 23 years. And we will bring a request to you in the future to send vehicles to auction so that we're eliminating some of our vehicles. The board packet did include a full specifications on those vehicles and a price quote. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also have Mr. Mike Schiff, Fannie Howie, and our friends from Moats Group if there's any questions on the larger project.
Thank you, Dr. Linsky. Board members?
I guess I wonder if we're going to use the soccer field once you get turf on for more events.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you recall, back in 2019, we identified many groups that need access to field time. Most importantly, our lacrosse teams, boys and girls lacrosse, as that has expanded. That will also help us reutilize. We currently run 6 levels of soccer. And so anybody that's associated with our soccer program will certainly understand the need for additional space. It will also impact Bittersweet Elementary. And one of the things that's unique to Bittersweet, because it shares a campus with Penn High School, is a lack of activity space. And that actually provides them a safe and closed area that the kids will have access to daily. So certainly I think you'll see, as we've experienced in all of our other fields that we have changed over to synthetic turf, we've seen the increase of usage go up, I would say 300 to 400%.
Mr. Turnwald?
Yeah, excited for item C to make sure that we have properly cooled areas in many of our elementaries for gyms and kitchens and cafeterias. One school that I didn't see on here, and I just wanted to clarify, was Mary Frank.
Yeah, so
Is that part of another project?
Mary Frank is part of another project, and that will be brought to you in whether it be next month or in December.
Okay, so that Mary Frank is still pending approval.
Yep, and
It's
then
not part of an old project.
the last gym then is the gym that you're currently sitting in, and that's currently being designed as well. We were not able to get those projects were actually slated to begin last summer, but due to the lack of equipment and lack of labor, we were advised to delay those projects. And so we're excited to move those forward, and we're excited to add future projects to improve all areas.
First, I expected these soccer fields that you were going to come and vacuum out the little black pellets that are about to invade my car every time I pick my kids up. Thank you, Dr. Linsky. My question is actually about the trucks. Is actually about the maintenance trucks. So I understand we bought 2 last year, new, right? So are our trucks breaking down, or is this a natural cycle of replacement?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2 years ago, I worked with our transportation staff and our facilities department to develop we have a bus replacement plan that we bring to you each year that's state required. And so naturally, as I evolved into this job, I felt that we needed to have also a plan to replace all of our non-bus vehicles. And so we have a plan in place that will reduce. Currently, we have some of our vehicles, I think the oldest that we're left now, I think we're down to maybe 1998s. And you can imagine the maintenance that we have on those vehicles. And so we're trying to reduce some of our maintenance costs and increase the reliability of that fleet. And so that's the goal behind it. We're also shifting from, we have, in addition to purchasing the vans, we've shifted from all trucks. So we've gone to, last year we added 2 vans, we're adding 2 more vans, and that's really to service our electrical and HVAC maintenance employees, so they can bring more things along with them. It's more efficient, so we can hopefully provide better service for our teachers in schools.
Dr. Linsky, so we are purchasing vans, correct?
Yeah, these are 2 high-top vans, and they'll replace 2 trucks. There was one truck on the initial list, and we had to take that truck off because it's no longer available.
Okay.
We'll still purchase trucks, it's just not in this set. Well, next month I'll be bringing more forward.
The quote from the dealership still shows the truck.
Yeah, it was already in the board packet, so we left it. Next month, and what, I'll just preface it this way, next month we will be asking for not only, we don't know if we'll be able to purchase the vehicles because of how quickly they go, so we'll likely just come to you with a request for a budget for that vehicle so that we can purchase it when it becomes available, if it's not available at the time.
And one last question on the soccer field, will they line that for other sports, i.e. lacrosse?
Absolutely. Yep.
More service time for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, there are 6 motions that I will present related to the capital improvement projects. I'll take one vote on all 6 motions. Do I have a motion to award the district-wide trash service contract to Waste Management of Indiana LLC in the amount of $8,765.26 per month? Award the soccer field multipurpose use improvement project to Mott's Group LLC for a base bid plus accepting alternate number 1 for a total award of $1,322,554. Awards the HVAC improvement project at Elsie, Prairie, Vista, Elm Road, and Moran Elementary Schools to Dynamic Mechanical Services for a base bid in the alternate number 4 for a total award of $1,631,580. Award the winter plowing subcontract to Thompson Landscape Services for Madison, Elm Road, Grissom, and Meadows Edge, and award the winter plowing subcontract to Hvac Properties for Prairie Vista, Mary Frank, and North Point. Approve change order number 1 for Penn High School exterior improvements to Zylowski Construction, Inc. for $75,745.98, and approve the purchase of 2 2023 2500 cargo vans with high roof from your Chrysler dealer Dodge Jeep Ram of Plainfield for $50,580.25 for a total price of $101,160.50.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Linsky. Don't go far. We'll move on to our next business action item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Dr. Erlinski will continue with our 3rd business action item with request for approval of professional service agreements for the 2022-2023 lease.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening once again. President Riley, members of the board, the administration is requesting approval for 4 professional services contracts, and these are related to the 22-23 lease and capital improvements plan. Their defined work and services scope was provided in the professional services proposal in your board packet. This includes the design, administration, and project management for the projects that are listed. The first is to Schmidt and Associates. This includes interior, exterior mechanical improvements. The base fee is $616,211 plus a reimbursable expense allowance of $61,621 for a total cost of $677,832. The second is for Fanning and Howie. This includes interior, exterior, and mechanical improvements. In addition, this also comprises the architecture and engineering for a future student activity center at Penn High School. This is for a flat fee of $1,320,000. The third is for I for Design. This includes interior and exterior improvements. There is a not to exceed base fee of $32,575 plus reimbursable expenses of $4,000 for a total cost of $36,575. And the fourth is to Arcos Design. This includes exterior improvements. The total fee for the basic services is $7,500 plus reimbursable expenses of $300 for a total cost of $7,800. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members.
So as you can recall, we've had discussions about a future student activity center at Penn High School and what that would look like to provide additional activity space for fine arts and athletics. And so this would include designing that. And should we decide to move forward with a project, they would oversee that management administration of that project.
Okay, is this like,
Yes. Yeah, it's a field house project. It just encompasses both fine arts, athletics, and then obviously all of the student activities that take place during the school day.
Do you have a plan in place to pay for the field house, since that $975,000 is pretty steep to have it designed and then not have a plan to pay for it?
Sure. Our friends at Fannie Howie only charge us for the fees that we use. So if for some reason this project would not go forward, we would not pay that amount. What you're awarding is what would be a total award, assuming that we move forward with that project. And in terms of financing, if the project is moved forward, we would bring financing options to the board at a later time. Well, it'd be similar to our current options. We would look at a general obligation bond capacity or a lease. So as you recall, as we determine our debt capacity in the district, we make sure that we structure it such that the district maintains a flat tax rate at maximum. And depending on what the ultimate assessed valuation comes out, you might see a reduction in tax rates, which is likely what is to happen based on the most recent increase in local property taxes based on home values, not from the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation.
Okay, there are 4 motions that I will present, and I'll take one vote on all 4 motions. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Schmidt Associates for design services on the 2022-2023 projects, including interior, exterior, mechanical improvements for base fee plus reimbursable expenses for a total cost of $677,832? Approve hiring Fannie Howie for design services on 2022-2023 projects, including interior, exterior, mechanical improvements. In addition, this also comprises the architecture and engineering for a future student activity center at Penn High School for a flat fee of $1,320,000. Approve hiring I4 Design for design services for the 2022-2023 projects, including interior and exterior improvements, not to exceed the base fee plus reimbursable expenses for a total cost of $36,575, and approve hiring Arcus Design for design services on the 2022-2023 projects, including exterior improvements for a base fee plus reimbursable expenses for a total cost of $7,800.
So move.
Second? All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. That motion also carries unanimously. Thank you again, Dr. Linsky. Appreciate all your work on this. We'll move on to the hearing of visitors. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board on general topics under the hearing of visitors without registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during the hearing of visitors. Board Attorney, Mr. John Rogers, will keep time and will alert you as your 3 minutes are expiring. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of your comments. Individuals may speak only once during this section of the agenda. Personnel issues are absolutely not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or to his designee. The board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors. And I understand, members of the public, that there may be a few of you who would like to address the board on what likely comprises a personnel issue. I will say from the experience that we had last month, where a similar instance occurred and a public, there was a public information about a particular PHM employee. Those who came up to address the board spoke in generalities, did not address the employee by name, but yet managed to make their feelings on the topic known. I would encourage any of you who are of the mindset tonight to address the board on this particular issue to do the same as those who addressed the board last month, because we really do have to avoid talking specifically about personnel issues at the Board of School Trustees meeting. There are a number of you who have pre-registered, even though you didn't have to. Yeah, there are a few who have pre-registered to speak. I will call on you first. Then I will open up the public comment section to anybody who has not registered who would like to address the board. And then finally, I will go to you, Mrs. Hugenboom, because I know that we at least have one person who has asked to address the board virtually, and we'll call on anybody who's joining us via our live YouTube stream. So with that in mind, Mr. Bashura.
Good evening once again, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and a member of the Board of School Trustees. I come to you tonight on some follow-up items that I have not received an answer on yet. First, I'll start off with is on the cost of book fees for the high school. We are now a couple months into the school year. We're in the month of October, and I'm still not aware of what my daughter's book fees are going to be. I'm sure there are parents in the district that want to know what they're going to have to budget for in the coming months. The second issue I'd like to talk to you about is an item I talked about last month, and that was the word immunization used on the register My Athlete. Dr. Thacker, I have not yet received a response from your discussion with St. Joseph as to the possibility of properly identifying that word immunization through the Register My Athlete page. The third topic I want to bring up to you tonight is the discussion on the student handbook. There was a couple instances where the handbook was released and the discussion of pronouns was part of the handbook for parents to sign off on. And there was discussion as should it be amended. We still have not heard an answer about that. And it would be great to hear back on that about that as well. Back in December, we talked to Dr. Thacker about the term critical race theory. Mr. Garrett still has not been able to make it an agenda item, and the public is still waiting to hear what the district's definition of critical race theory it is and how it plays in our district. The next topic I want to talk about is about SEL. Has it been redefined? In doing some research this past weekend, I have found out that the Indiana Department of Education now calls it employability skills. Has a district restructured per the INDOE? And what is going on with SEL? Because I'm not seeing much information coming out about it. My last topic is about food. Is about some food vendors. As all of you know, I'm responsible for the Carnival of Van food vendors. This past a couple weeks ago, I learned of a vendor who supplied food to a school in the district does not have liability insurance. That's a problem. They only bought the liability insurance because we required it as being a vendor at our Carnival of Bands. That's a huge concern for the district. I'm here to help you on this one. I'm throwing you a bone on this. You need to make sure that your vendors have the proper insurance when they service the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bashura. Mr. Ben Dallas.
Well, good evening. As my name's Ben, I live in Mishawaka, have 3 boys that go to the school. As normal, the school board starts off as a typical school board, lots of celebration for a good reason. Then it kind of takes a little bit of a turn into start getting into more political stuff, it seems like. I don't know why, but I'm glad this is probably going to be one of my last meetings I get to attend. So yeah, as you know, I start hearing about these different ways, these different methods of teaching and whatnot. And you guys say, as the last speaker said, you guys say you're not teaching critical race theory because you call it something else. You say you're not teaching gender ideology because, well, we call it something else. We say we're not teaching politics because, yeah, we call it something else. Hopefully we get this under control. We do have an election coming up next month. If my candidates get in, great. No need for me to come back. If my candidates don't get in, there's still no reason for me to come back because you're not going to listen to me anyways. So it's all good. At least I don't have to come to these anymore and speak. Because next month we get to witness being in a constitutional republic. It's great. It's a wonderful thing. This is where elected officials are held accountable. It's that simple. So democracy speaks next month. It's going to be great. I can't wait. As always with any election, there's always consequences. Always consequences with any election. So looking forward to that one way or the other. And as a wise person once said, that I'm sure a lot of you voted for, elections do have consequences. That's about all I really got for right now. Everybody have a good night, and yeah, see you next month.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Rebecca Loudis.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. My name is Rebecca, and I live on Whittington Court in Granger. My husband and I have 2 children, and we are proud to be a part of this corporation where excellence is happening every day. And I can say that with confidence because not only am I a parent of a neurodiverse child in the district, I'm an active PTO member, volunteer, and most recently an employee. I have returned to the classroom this year as a part-time teaching assistant in one of our elementary schools. So this means I get to work with some of my favorite students, those who are part of our exceptional education population. This also means I work closely with not just the teachers, but specialists and therapists, nurses, other aides in the building and staff school-wide. So I obviously may not see it all, but I see a lot, and I'm floored each day. The work happening in our schools, it's beautiful, it's challenging, it's ever-changing and developing. And for all of this, I'm grateful. So when my kids come home from school each day and I try to get a daily report, it's difficult sometimes. So we've come to use the analogy of a rose, and we talk about the different aspects of the day. Specifically, we'll talk about the flower, the bud, and the thorns. This helps organize their thoughts around what is beautiful and amazing and good, what is growing and developing, and lastly, what is painful or difficult and a challenge. So I'd like to share my daily report with you this evening. The flower. Seeing a student with mobility challenges find courage and grit to climb a rock wall at recess and slide down the tunnel slide, and the cheers from classmates when they come out the other end with a smile. A school nurse who sings karaoke while assisting a student with their lunch via a feeding tube. The bud, working alongside a veteran teacher who stays after school 3 hours past dismissal to make changes and rearrange the classroom so it's more inclusive for neurodiverse students, including flexible seating, areas with fidgets that integrate their senses, and bins and blocks and toys used to earn after meeting individual goals. And thorns, seeing building-wide absences only being filled to 43%, teachers having to cover other classrooms, staffing is low, exceptional education teachers having over 30 students on their caseload. The teacher shortage is real, and it concerns me because what we do about it right now may have consequences for decades to come. So this is my daily report. I know others have their own, and as we move forward together, I'm continuing to trust our dedicated teachers, staff, administrators, and the school board to be our gardeners. So thank you for highlighting the presence of many flowering roses and bragging of their beauty like we have tonight. Thank you for recognizing the buds that aren't as far along but are still growing and developing, and the thorns, for holding them in your care, for sometimes publicly and sometimes privately managing individuals, classrooms, and systems, not quickly always, but thoughtfully and diligently. Thank you for making our PHM garden grow each and every day.
Thank you, Mrs. Loudis. That was very well thought out. Appreciate you and appreciate you working with our kids. Jackie Olson.
Good evening.
I just wanted to come here today to highlight some of the experiences we've seen in our house and some of my thoughts with this. So,
Mrs. Olson, can I stop her time for just a second? Could you move that microphone a little closer to you so we can hear you a little bit better?
is that better?
That's much better.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to highlight some experiences we've seen in our home here lately. So first, I would like to say that I'm very thankful to the very conscious care given to our children. The mindfulness, the purposefulness that goes behind the care and consideration that I see come through in my children, but also I hear within the community. I just want to recognize that. We see that, we feel that, and we appreciate it. My next thought here is about how much I see the teaching that goes beyond the classroom. And what I'd like to say in this is a small example we've seen in our house in October is Fire Safety Awareness Month. And we've seen some paperwork and information come home in my house that is not only great information for our children and learning, but great discussion within our home. And this is beyond curriculum of basic core sort of learning. This is information that really sparks discussion to save lives. And so the gravity of that information being sent to my children in another space, but also for us to continue discussion has really been important in our home, and we're very thankful. And then last, I'd like to say that something that is very present to us is that the academics at PHM are very innovative and they push our children in ways that really drive them to the next level. And we're very appreciative of that. But what I hope we don't lose focus on here is that some of this feedback we get, or some of these metrics, I don't want us to limit us to the things that are on the pen and paper only, right? I don't want us to be limited to just the grading scales. But I do see within our children and our communities, some things that flourish when we take that off the paper, right? The fire safety awareness is not a grading scale. I see different things coming home from my children as far as their understanding and acceptance. That is not just the grading scale. I don't want to take anything away from the value of the core. I understand that there's value in the core, but I believe that there's more to the core. And I love when I see that come home in my children. And I see that in our children and our community when we embrace those sort of opportunities, that there's more life to be lived off the page. So I want to say thank you for that. We notice it, we appreciate it, and thank you.
Mrs. Olson, thank you. Appreciate you coming tonight and sharing your experiences with us. Whitney Zarazi?
Hello, my name is Whitney Zierzi. I'm a student at Indiana University South Bend. My address is 12344 Settlers Cove Court. I wanted to make myself clear. I am here not to speak for anyone else, but I am here to share my experience. I have been coached by this volleyball association for 3 years. I can't express this enough, but I feel all 4 years being at Penn High School, a repetitive saying stuck with me. I heard that PHS was a school of excellence, and everything you do needs to be done with excellence. I can't express enough how Penn volleyball was the true foundation of why I've achieved excellence. Currently, I am trying to balance nursing school, work, relationships, families, and everything else this world throws my way. And let me tell you, it's not easy. Yet, I am still thriving in stressful competitive situations from all the wisdom and lessons Penn volleyball has given me. I believe that a 15-second clip doesn't define the true intentions of such a selfless, remarkable program. I believe the Penn volleyball staff not only gave us the fundamentals to be great athletes, but even greater people in the outside world. I am truly saddened of these accusations being made when it has always been clear the intentions are pure and what is best for all players. If I can say anything else about my experience, it would be I am grateful to have been a part of one of the most successful volleyball programs in the area. All because of the love, compassion, commitment, level, integrity, honesty, accountability, and joy Penn volleyball has created. Thank you for your time and listening.
Hey, Whitney, thank you. Is this the first time you've ever come to speak to the school board?
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to tell. You did a remarkable job. Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in the remarks that you made to the board and conveyed yourself very well. Thank you. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Addie Coyce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Addie Coyce, and I'm a sophomore volleyball player at Valparaiso University. My address is 11383 Denver Ridge Court. I was a 4-year member of the Penn volleyball program and was coached under the current administration for 3 of those years. Today, I will not be speaking for anyone's experiences besides my own because it would not be right to treat other stories as evidence for my own argument, as we have seen happen a lot recently. I grew up playing multiple sports, meaning I have had a large number of coaches. The coaching staff currently is the most dedicated and selfless one that I've ever had. Not once did I ever think they crossed the line, nor have they done anything that I have not seen another coaching staff do. The video that you have all seen is not even remotely a reflection of her character. I am not going to sit here, however, and tell you all that everything was rainbows and sunshine. But if that is what anyone expects out of a competitive sports team, then there is surely more to learn about the sports world. If you have ever been part of a team where a coach has not pushed you to your full potential, I can assume that that team was not very successful. This coaching staff's successes are a direct reflection of her intensity, grit, and love for the game of volleyball. I would not be half of the player or person that I am without her. I admire what she stands for and how powerful of a woman she is. It is unfortunate that we live in a time where social media can destroy someone's life in a matter of minutes, and it surprises me that it wasn't my generation doing the damage this time. I hope that there is a part of every single one of you that can understand that the internet isn't a reliable source, something that I've been taught since I was a child. I also hope you can all find a spot in your heart to consider the fact that this coaching staff has been in the program for a long time and has been completely respected amongst everyone in the volleyball community. My heart hurts knowing that there are people out there that will not think twice about ruining another person's career, as if they are not a human too. To my former teammates, I cannot speak for all of you, but my only memories from my Penn volleyball experience are all 100% positive, and I'm forever grateful that I had the opportunity to play with all of you and be coached by this coaching staff. I stand with them, and I will always look up to them as the powerful women that they are. Thank you so much for your time.
Addie, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you coming to address the board. Well done. Michelle Bourdain. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this name correctly. Michelle, Bordia. That's as far as I can make it out. No. Okay, Michelle, I'll come back to you. Don Pogue?
It's actually Dan, excuse me, Dan Pogue. Hi, my address.
You're now on mic.
Huh? Yeah, my address is 64777 Elm Road. I'm a graduate of Penn High School. My parents were actually the last graduating class at Madison Madison High School. And actually, my maternal grandparents were also graduates of Madison High School. I'm here to support the Penn volleyball team. I have a son that graduated from Penn last year. I have a daughter that's at Penn currently, and I have a younger daughter that's at Grissom. My daughter is involved with the volleyball program and has loved every minute of the experience. She can't get enough of it. I mean, she wants to be at every event. She wants to be at everything. And what the volleyball staff has done for her has just brought her out of her shell and improved her as not only an athlete, as a person, as a student. I just want common sense to come into play with what's going on and not be influenced by media and social media who they're not giving the truth of what actually happened, which is frustrating for people to sit back and that know what happened and not be able to do anything about it. So I appreciate you taking my time. I just want to support everybody involved with volleyball staff. Thank you.
Mr. Pogue, thank you. We appreciate you and your time. Cheryl Trueblood. Good evening. We're good, thank you.
My address is 52498 Glenmore Court, Granger, Indiana. And I am also here on behalf of the volleyball program. My daughter has played 4 years through the program. She has nothing but accolades to say regarding the coaching staff. They have been fantastic to her throughout injuries, throughout any issues that she's had. They have just been absolutely wonderful. They have made her into the person that she is today. She was very, very shy and, would not speak out, but she has just blossomed into such a wonderful person and absolutely loves the game of volleyball and is looking to play later on. I just want to say any type of experience that I've had with the coaching staff has always been 100% positive and very caring personalities that are in there. As for some of these accusations, as I said, my daughter has had an injury. They have followed everything that the doctor has said. She didn't get pushed during summer workouts. She did what the doctor wanted her to do, and the coaching staff allowed that. And I just feel like, all these allegations, I feel like first as a parent, if the coach is not doing what you feel is appropriate for your child, I understand first your child should go to the coach. That's asked since middle school. If it does not get taken care of the way that you feel it should, you as a parent should then address the coach also. And then if you're still not getting what you want and what needs to be done for your child, then you go to the school or the athletic director. And finally, you can't say that anybody can force your child to do anything, and you as a parent need to be an advocate. And if you feel like your child is in a bad situation, you need to be advocating for your child. It's not the coach's responsibility. It's your responsibility as a parent and to your child. So as I said, the Penn volleyball program has done nothing but wonderful things for my daughter, and it's a wonderful staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Trueblood. We really appreciate you coming here tonight. Pam Zirazi? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm proud to be a 1988 Penn High School graduate. I don't know if I should say that out loud in the year, but I did. And a parent of a 2021 Penn High School volleyball player and graduate. My experience has been nothing but positive with the Penn volleyball program under the current leadership. Did I disagree with some of the decisions along the way? Yes, but isn't that life? And isn't that what should be expected in a highly competitive and successful program? We as parents and players need to respect the expectations, rules, and communication process of the team. With that, I allowed my daughter to discuss all the options and situations that we disagreed with the head coach and assistants, and she made the decisions that worked for her, which were supported by us and the coaching staff. The current volleyball leadership has provided the following, in my opinion, and experience to the program. Accountability. As a student, player, and parent, the volleyball coaches hold accountability for sportsmanship, players' actions, specifically on the court, representation of the school and the program on and off the court, and in and out of school. Responsibility is the next area where the volleyball of the current coaches has taught young ladies always to be responsible for their actions and make a difference to their teammates, competition, and communities throughout the volleyball sisterhood that has been developed through the years in this program. Teamwork is something else I want to quickly talk about. How do you bring a group of talented young ladies together? I think you look at the current leadership that the volleyball program has. Their years of experience, their dedication, and their time. They have relentlessly, over their tenure, coached hundreds of student athletes, particularly females. They know how to motivate players to get the best out of them. Some of them may question those ways, but at the end of the day, that is what makes a successful team. Constantly challenging each other and the abilities to move the team from good to great. The record, is only half the story. How many of these players have gone on to continue to seek higher education, to be great role models as parents? Olympic status, and even coaching to mirror the values that they have been taught by the Penn volleyball program. The last area I want to talk about is safety. Safety is a key to all of us, especially as an educator and as a coach. They have all provided a safe environment for health, wellness, and athletics to players and students. And if they didn't want their children to be there or choose to allow their daughters to participate in the program we felt was unsafe, why make that happen? The coaches have allowed a buddy system in gyms. They have walked students to cars for safety. They even provided avenues for students to go if they needed help. Other coaches, administrators, counselors, and trainers. My final words are these. Are we really going to allow a few second video clip that was not shown in its entirety to demise a program and a coaching staff that has given so much to a program? Thank you.
Mrs. Ersey, thank you very much. We appreciate
Absolutely.
your experiences. Mr. Dominic Ball.
A quick question, does my time start when I start my speech or when I start giving my name and address and all that? When I walk down the stairs?
When you got up from the steps.
Okay. All right, Dominic Ball, 732 River Point Place, Mishawaka, Indiana. Good evening, President Riley, Board of Trustees, Dr. Thacker. I've been an educator for over 40 years, teaching mostly U.S. history, and would like to address the contentious issue of CRT. This has been brought up at several board meetings the last few years. First, I want to make the point that CRT is not taught at PHM. Second, social emotional learning is a state mandated program. SEL is often lumped together with CRT as dangerous curriculum, but they are not related. To elaborate further, the idea of CRT began in the post-civil rights era in the late 1970s, early 1980s. This theory is a very complex and higher level thinking theory to understand. CRT is taught at the graduate level in some colleges for political scientists, sociologists, and law school students. I taught a college course at Penn. It was not age appropriate for my students, who were some of the brightest at Penn, along with it not being in our state standards or curriculum. Here is a basic theory, a basic history of how we arrived at the beginnings of CRT. During the 1950s and 60s, there were many pieces of legislation that were passed to even the playing field. Brown v. Board in 1954, where the Supreme Court ruled that schools must desegregate with all deliberate speed. The Montgomery bus boycott said that public facilities must be integrated. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination in education, housing, and employment. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, which prohibits any state or local government from denying a person the right to vote. The Fair Housing Act of 1968, which expanded the Civil Rights Act and allowed for federal enforcement. This brought about the idea in the late 1970s that with so many laws that were passed to guarantee equality, why did the United States still have racism? What were the causes? Legal experts, sociologists, political scientists began to examine the role of the United States law in perpetuating racism. Since 2020, conservative U.S. lawmakers have sought to ban or to restrict the instruction of anti-racism education. This was the beginning of the controversial issue called CRT. To some, this was worse than the bubonic plague. Conservative lawmakers and activists have used CRT as a catchphrase for nearly any examination of systemic racism. The goal was to have the public read or hear something crazy and immediately think CRT. The basic idea that CRT is taught in our schools is ridiculous. CRT does not exist in any PHM school. However, we cannot silence the discussion of racism, equality, social justice.
Mr. Ball, thank you very much. I know you've got more to say. Why don't you come back and see us again, okay?
We'll see.
Michelle Ball, I understand you're of some relation to our previous speaker.
Tad, 30-some years.
Michelle Ball, same address, 732 River Point Place. I'm just going to pick up where he left off. Okay. The goal was to have the public read it and again think immediately CRT. However, we can't silence the discussion of racism, equality, social justice, and the history of race. The history of our great nation still must be taught, and we must teach the truth. The United States is not perfect. We have made many mistakes, but we still have a great country. Educators must not ignore the teaching of problems of our country that we faced and that our country still faces, but we need to be honest with our children. Penn is an excellent school. I taught there for 30 years. I know this. Okay. We both have rigor and relationships. The rigor comes in because we teach models such as the Socratic method for classroom discussions so that students learn to analyze and examine issues from multiple angles on their own. We do this because our students as young adults go into the world, they need to be critical thinkers. Don't we all want that? Relationships come in because we as educators care for our students. Ultimately, it comes down to this. Teachers reinforce what we all should practice, right? What the world needs. If we follow this rule, which is called the golden rule for a reason, perhaps critical race theory and racism wouldn't exist. I would like the discussion of CRT, we all would, to cease once and for all because it's not taught in our schools. If patrons have a problem with SEL, social emotional learning, whatever it's being called now, I suggest they contact their legislators. That's who mandated it, not PHM. We didn't create it. As my husband has stated over and over again, and that's why he's finally here, to create a policy to make sure that we don't teach CRT is like adding a policy to say Bigfoot shouldn't come into our schools. It doesn't exist. Thank you for your time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ball, very much. Matt Hostetler? Good evening, sir. Welcome.
My name is Matt Hosteller. My address is 51102 Woods Run Court. How ironic we are here on World's Mental Health Day. I'm here tonight because I can no longer sit back and listen to the cries of Penn parents. Mental health and mental abuse is a serious issue in America, and it won't get better until people feel safe talking about it. Last week, a video was shared with me after someone had posted it on social media, and I was absolutely disgusted with what I saw. I was told this video was sent to multiple local news sources and was asked if I could share as well. I will say it was very hard for me to do at first, but as the letters and messages came pouring in, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I saw in the news this week that bullying has been a big problem at Penn, but it has been addressed, and it appears some solutions have been put in place to not only study it, but also combat it. However, this needs to start with the administration, the teachers, and the coaches. What messages are you trying to send when you dismiss this type of behavior from a teacher or coach? I would like to know where all the letters and complaints have gone that have been submitted over the years of the students and athletes being mistreated. I have a stack of letters here for each one of you that I have been given from numerous families who have bravely decided to speak out against the coach and how they have been affected both short and long term. I know there will be letters that will be sent in support of this coach. I myself could stand up here for 10 minutes and tell you how great and how many good things about this coach. However, these good things are expected out of people in this position and doesn't excuse the mistreating of players and students. Even one of these letters I have here, in my opinion, is too much, but how high does the stack of letters need to be, and how many videos showing inappropriate behavior do you need to see for change to be made? I can assure you, even a heartless person would cringe at reading some of these letters, Lauren Baker's in particular, so I separated it from the others. I really hope that you will do your due diligence this time in reviewing them and come up with an appropriate solution. This is an opportunity for Penn to say enough is enough, and you can spearhead the change that is needed, because I know this is not only a Penn issue, but this happens in other schools throughout the country. Please take these serious, as like I stated before, mental health and mental abuse is very real.
Thank you, Mr. Hostetler. We appreciate it very, very much. Are those for us? Can you give them to Mrs. Hugenboom? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give this one more shot. Michelle Bourdain. Okay. Before we go to those who might be joining us via our live YouTube stream, is there anybody else? Yes, Paige, come on up. I know who you are.
My name is Paige Donati, and I live at 51160 Elm Road. This is my second board meeting, so I just figured I'd stand up and talk about just my experience with PHM. After 3 long years of waiting, I've finally been able to get into the building to help out with my kids and the teachers and the staff, and it's been wonderful. I have helped with the library, with children like reading to me so they can practice their fluency, and I have helped in the classroom today, their first Art Smart lesson. So it's just been so wonderful to get to experience firsthand what's going on in the classrooms. Even while I'm waiting to volunteer, I get to hear the conversations that are happening with the students and with the teachers, just constantly evaluating where they are. It's not just your state testing, it's like through discussions, it's through all the paperwork that you get sent home. And me personally, my children, one in particular, I have a preschooler, a kindergartner, and a second grader. My second grader has been my struggle. He does not like school, which is so hard for me because I love school. I've always loved school. And I feel any time that I haven't felt as part as the triangle of success, I've reached out, and any of my concerns have been addressed. And just the things that I see at this board meeting and the last one I attended are all the things that I see. I am currently in my teaching program, all the things that I see in a program that you would want to see in a school. All the ways that differentiation is happening in the classrooms for students with exceptionalities, and for students that maybe are at a grade level or 2 above where their other classmates are. So I just think everything that's going on in the PHM district, I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be a parent, and maybe one day I'll be proud to be a teacher there. So thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to that day that you're a teacher here. Don't you give it to Mrs. Coogan. Boom. Thank you, Mrs. Donati, very much. It's great to hear from you. Thank you also for your involvement in the schools. Anybody else here who would like to address the board? Mrs. Witt?
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. I live in Granger. Thank you for letting me speak again, board and Dr. Thacker. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. As I have been attending and speaking on real concerns, whether it was about masks, allowing CRT tenants to creep into everyday school lessons, or teachers not being supported in the classroom, I've learned a lot about the triangle. Because not everyone is allowed to be on the PHM forum or the now defunct super secret SAC. I met a group of parents who also felt disenfranchised over the years and truly want accountability from all sides of the triangle, but mostly from administration, the true North Star. One of you board members had concerns as a parent in 2019 and spoke on those concerns. You chose to run as a concerned parent, but all of a sudden, people who speak and present facts are being painted as extremists and white supremacists who are going to drive property values down. Name calling when one can't debate facts isn't a good look. The very PHM alumni you listened to and met with for hours and hours have went on Twitter rants with vulgar hate speech. These same alumni benefited from taking thousands of dollars of scholarship money to attend elite private schools, and they are now creating campaign web pages labeling people white supremacists, and with messaging acting as political advisors by representing PHM and acting as bullies themselves. Current teachers, students on Kingsman Court, current students, past board members, some of your family members, and even you, Mr. Riley, have liked these pages in support. Everyone seems to have forgotten all that their parents and PHM have taught them about cyberbullying. The very people you have highlighted as endorsements to your campaigns have admittedly created fake profiles to harass people online. One parent has abused her privilege in having North Point families' email addresses and took it upon herself to inappropriately email everyone and tell lie after lie about people she doesn't even know. Somehow this election time, It's so important to know where certain people running, somehow this election time is so important to know where certain people running have their children attend school, but you, Mr. Riley, get a pass. Garrett and Beelers haven't attended in 20 plus years, and Gates has taken hers all out, but never mind those facts. I think the last time I spoke on bullying, there were around 4 reported incidents to the state. What saddens me is I think of at least 40 bullying incidents are happening now online from parents who are probably watching from home. Heck, we just had a teacher at the last meeting tell us thank God for school choice, meaning we should all leave and stop complaining. This divisive rhetoric lays at your feet, board. Please stop pitting teachers against parents. It's your leadership that I've seen in the past 2 years being reactive, unaware of what's happening in this classroom, and tone deaf to legitimate concerns. It's also not your job to create classrooms that mimic mental health institutions, but you seem to think that's okay. Our teachers are to educate, not indoctrinate. And since I've been coming here, you thumb your nose at us and act like we are a nuisance instead of parents, taxpayers, neighbors, and friends. Have a fabulous anti-bullying prevention month, and I think Sarah Dean wants to speak out next.
Thank you, Mrs. Witt. Who's next? Yes, ma'am. Well, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Renee Schlichting. I live at 2220 Mishawaka. I have 2 children in the district. They actually go to this amazing school. So I was excited to come here tonight and have you at our amazing school. I guess I just want to do a shout out to my amazing teachers. I feel that we actually were from South Bend and got into PHM via lottery, which we were super excited about, and came thankfully here to Madison, which we love and continue to grow with. But, just hearing people talk about this idea that our children come to school are here just to learn and learn about math and reading, which again, I'm so thankful to be in this district to know that my kids will get the best education possible. And I'm a great partner with our teachers to do that, that my children also come here to learn about how to be a good person and how to be empathetic. And I have a 4th grader who has lots of relationship issues every day with her friends that I have no control over, and since that I'm not here, right? But we have an amazing teacher here who's such a great partner with me to make her be such a good friend and a good listener. And without that, I can't even imagine what my daughter would be like at school or at home, right? So I just wanted this idea of this social emotional learning not being a part of what we do here at school. It's like, it's not separate, right? I feel like as a mother, my children, no matter where they are, they're part of their whole person that's learning in many different ways. So I appreciate you as a district that's very important. I appreciate that Indiana thinks it's important, because I also think that when they grow to be these wonderful people that I know they will be, a job is going to look at that for them, right? They're going to want relationships. They're going to look at that for them. So again, I just want to thank you. And I, again, thank my wonderful teachers that are here at Madison. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Brent Curtis, and I have 2 children in the PHM schools. Every time I attend or watch one of these meetings, I do so with an open mind and a heart full of hope. Hope that I will be assured that my children are in good hands. Hope that they will receive an education that prepares them for their future. Hope that this board will do what's right, even in those times when it's not the easy choice. And I'm sorry to say that I am often disappointed. Disappointed that I'm not confident in what my children are being taught. Disappointed that this board is too easily distracted by things that have nothing to do with education, such as misaligned genders and preferred pronouns. Disappointed that this board would approve the hiring or rehiring of individuals whose social media has content that offends many and would result in the termination of most. I understand that people's private lives are their own. However, when you post something on social media, it's not called private media. You have entered a public forum and you are deserving of the scrutiny and consequences that come with it. You'd have to be blind not to see it, and you'd have to be indifferent to ignore it. The last time I spoke to this group, I used that word, indifferent. A couple of you assured me that you were not indifferent. However, your actions or lack thereof prove otherwise. Any individual in any organization who becomes satisfied with the status quo is guilty of complacency. Complacency is defined as self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. Complacency is just as crippling as indifference. You are not elected to this board to take the easy road. When was the last time there was an issue that resulted in a 4-3 split vote? When was the last time you took a stand against the majority? I've seen that conviction from Mrs. Gates and Mr. Garrett, but I haven't seen it from anyone else. Continuous unanimous voting typifies a group that simply falls in line. Where is the courage to say, no, we won't do that? If someone can't or doesn't want to be that person, then just step aside and let someone else do it.
Thank you, sir. Who's next? Mr. Jones?
All right, my name is Brian Jones. I live in Granger. Good leaders know organizations have strengths and they have weaknesses. Great leaders like Mr. Gardner, they build on these strengths and they openly acknowledge their challenges. It's not always roses all the time, but we have to look at what we're not performing well in, put plans in place to be able to pick ourselves up and move forward. He's still not where he wants to be, but he's super happy about it. The problem is when someone outside of PHM says, hey, Penn's a great school system, they do good things, but they have some flaws we need to work on, it becomes met with, oh, you're anti-everything, and which is just clearly not the place, or not the case. So we're in a place right now, which other people have alluded to, where this election is the most contentious race in the county by far. We're in a place where there's a social media page called Change PHM, run by recent graduates of Penn. It features one of PHM's administrations in pictures predominantly, where a post states half of the candidates are part of a group that promotes violent white supremacist ideology. Then they go on to name the 3 candidates they support, 2 of which sit on the board today and 1 does not. This post has 174 likes. This divisive rhetoric is from recent graduates. It's liked by current and former staff members, students, alumni, parents of students, county officials, even former board members who have openly endorsed you. Your campaign pages are tagged with other posts labeling me and 2 others as homophobic, transphobic extremists. You know it's out there because your name's on it, but you've remained silent. You know me, Chris, Dr. Thacker, we've talked. I'm not that guy and you know I'm not, but yet you've said nothing about it. This is the sentiment in our community, at least after 9 years of you presiding over the board. And it's happening because divisive political issues have been allowed into our schools and there are no guidelines or accountability to anyone. This is the culture that's been created by the board, not our hardworking teachers and no one else. And it has to stop. The primary focus of schools is to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Parents should have full consent on decisions and matters involving their children, have a full understanding of curriculum and the confidence that age-appropriate material is in school buildings. Students need a safe environment to learn in, not just the physical structure of the building, but we need to know their hearts and minds are protected every single day. We need to have clear guidelines with personal accountability expectations and ensure that every interaction is a positive one. Teachers have been burdened with managing way too much. They need a defined structure and support to manage their classrooms. They deserve every single resource possible to ensure that every student achieves academically. They should be compensated in a manner that attracts, develops, and retains the highest talent of teachers that we can find with lower student to teacher ratios, especially those with accommodations, which we've heard about extensively.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for your time.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? There we go. Good evening, Matt Chaffee. I live at 10324 Heatherbrook Drive in Osceola. Right now, the country is politically divided. There's a lot of anger out there. Let's not continue to bring those disagreements to the classroom. We want to offer an education that everyone can welcome, teaching kids how to learn best so they can continue to be good learners throughout their lives, not just while in the classrooms of PHM. We want to be able to build collaborative relationships between parents, teachers, and administrators, ones where we can welcome conversations with each other, ones without anger, and ones where we genuinely smile when we meet each other. We should want our classrooms to be opportunities of engagement where we focus our efforts on their intellectual, social, and emotional development as human beings, rather than reflections of the current political climate. We need to ensure our schools are a safe place for learning how to learn, to collaborate, and to celebrate growth. We need to focus our efforts in an arena in which we can all agree. It is not healthy to ignore anger and frustration in our community, just as we would not want our children's anger and frustration ignored in the classrooms. That is why we need to come together, find ground in which we can agree, and move forward from there. Moving forward requires civility and rational thinking, free of political viewpoints. The do as I say, not as I do really doesn't work well as brains are designed to copy. We need to lead with that in mind. In order to do these things, we need to get back to the basics. First of all, prioritize education with sound planning and focus on teaching critical thinking skills applicable in real-world situations. Adults and students alike need to focus on learning to ask the right questions. We need to teach our students to discover how they learn best. Our students need to learn how to learn. Secondly, support and monitor goals of all groups striving for improvement, students, teachers, parents, and administrators as well. Lastly, foster a sense of community, kindness, and commitment in our schools. Success depends upon how we treat and value each other, no matter our differing views. You know, I was a student, I'm a graduate of Penn, I'm a longtime resident, and most importantly, I'm a father of a future PHM student who just simply wants the best for this school community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Mrs. Cartwright?
I'm going to lower this a little bit. Tina Cartwright. And I just wanted to touch base a little bit on this CRT discussion that was presented. A policy is needed to simply state that Penn follows the state standards, which is no CRT, and that there is accountability if someone strays away from the Indiana standard of not teaching it. Just like we need that social media policy that we discussed at the last meeting. If there's no policy, you can't be doing anything wrong to get in trouble, right? Mr. Riley, Mr. Turnwald, and your running mate, Ms. Sullivan, when I hear and read comments from your supporters, such as the Facebook alias Sarah Dean, who is likely sitting in this room right now, say things like, go back to your own school district. Doesn't sound very inclusive to me, and I think it's very rude. Guess what, Sarah? This school district is still my home, and my roots here run deep. Just as deep, if not deeper, than many in-district families. You continue to thank these people for all that they are doing in the community. Does that include harassing people, calling people names, stealing campaign signs, creating fake accounts to badger your opposition, and the most recent, using PHM email lists to send email blasts bashing your competition and encouraging parents to vote for you, Mr. Riley, Mr. Turnwald, and Ms. Sullivan. Also, that was a really neat flyer that PHM sent out, coincidentally, right before the elections. As I was sitting here tonight, I received some text messages from other PHM parents questioning why Mr. Riley and Mr. Turnwald seem to be the spotlight on the live news feed. Wow, the PHM PR staff is hard at work campaigning for you, aren't they? Also, the school board is put into place as a form of checks and balances for our superintendent, Dr. Thacker. I have concerns when I hear that you specifically ask people to run for the board, and we are supposed to expect that these folks will essentially hold you accountable. This doesn't sit well with me, nor should it sit well with anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Okay, Mrs. Hoogenboom, we'll go to our live YouTube feed, and I understand that we have Mrs. Diane Worth, who is pre-registered.
Dr. Thacker, can you hear?
Fine, welcome.
Hello, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board, good evening. I'm a former 32-year employee of PHM. I retired a few short years ago. Dr. Thacker, can you hear? Okay. Hello. Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board, good evening. I'm a former 32-year employee of PHM. I retired a few short years ago. There seems to be technical difficulties. Hello, Dr. Thacker, President Riley. Can we hear?
Okay, Mrs. Worth, we can hear you just fine.
Oh my gosh, I kept hearing it play over and over. I hope this
Yes,
doesn't take 1 minute.
you need to click off of YouTube.
I did. It was actually something else. So I apologize. Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board, good evening. I'm a former 32-year employee of PHM, retiring a few short years ago. While far in miles, I am close in heart and only want the very best for my former district. My own children benefited from PHM and because of teachers who truly cared. I still have a vested interest in PHM in multiple ways. I've had people in the community reach out to me to help be a voice in the concerns they have about behaviors by candidates for the upcoming school board election. While the outcome of the school is achievement, this outcome will not be achieved without the #1 priority, which is safety. A safe school includes students feeling physically, mentally, emotionally safe, and it is inclusive of all. Without that, students cannot attain excellence. Addressing psychological needs of students helps them handle what they are feeling or going through without harm, self-harm, fear of peer or societal rejection. The idea that young children do not need emotional support or struggle with mental health issue is highly insolent. Red flags have been waved by several potential candidates running on back to basics and academic excellence without understanding that those two together are is a complete oxymoron. You are not transparent while buying bots, distorting data, and creating fear. You can't be fair and nonpartisan and say keep politics out while running with a political party affiliation. What is occurring here is truly a national issue. There are organizations across the country, such as the Leadership Institute, SOS, Purple for Parents, manufacturing outrage and disseminating disinformation to support their attempts and create fear. And when asked to explain it from my experience, they won't. They divert, they delete, and I've been attacked. PHM employs some of the best teachers in the country. We don't create divide or fear. We are adults who look at all aspects of learning for all. Our school board member needs members that are visionary and nonpartisan and believers in all. President Chris Riley, you truly are the epitome of what a school board president should be. Your standards are high, your heart for serving is huge, and you view all matters multidimensionally through a lens of what is best for all. Dana Sullivan by far is fair in her thinking, knows how to listen, supports all, and cares about the success of everyone. She has the heart and ability to lead. While I haven't had the privilege to work directly with you, Mr. Turnwald, I do know you have the unwavering support of many teachers, parents, students, and members. I also know you don't run on hidden agendas and you care about all.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay. I almost made it.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your comments.
It's my absolute pleasure.
Okay, do we have anybody else who is signed up for addressing the board via our YouTube feed? Nobody else? Okay, we'll move on with the agenda to the board announcements and requests. Board members, any reports or requests?
Yeah, before we close, I would like to say a few things. First of all, I'd like everyone to know that I teach at PHM for 43 years. I never needed a loudspeaker when I was in the classroom. Right, Michelle? Yes, I was a teacher at Penn for 43 years at Penn and Schmucker, and I verify the fact that we have some of the greatest teachers ever. We have some of the greatest students ever, as witnessed by the accolades that they receive at our board meetings all the time. But I want you to know that there's more that goes on at Penn other than just all the great things. Looking from outside in, the view is awesome. Looking from inside out, we do have a few freckles that need to be taken care of. Anyone who thinks we don't is not, they're not looking around to see what's going on. When I ran for school board and was elected, I had many, many teachers. Some of them even in this room tonight came to me and said, please do something about the discipline, which is something that I took a lot of pride in. I felt like I had really good classroom management discipline. And so I wanted to do the best I could. And I have to tell you that I feel like an abstract failure because over the past 6 years I've been on the board, I have really not been able to do anything. I've approached the board on several occasions, talked to them about maybe doing something about the discipline situation. But I've been told that there's really no basis for my assertion that we need discipline improvement at Penn. Although I had many teachers that told me that please do something about the discipline. I even talked to one PHM assistant principal, and I asked him very plainly at one board meeting one evening a year or so ago, what are we doing about students who are being very disrespectful to teachers and telling them to get F'd and a lot of other things. And this assistant principal told me that he wasn't doing anything because he didn't want to get fired. And I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no, really, we do not want to deal with parents and their complaints. So to tell me that there is no basis for my assertion when I have teachers coming to me begging, do something about the discipline, when I talked to more than one PHM administrator, actually I talked to two, who told me that they couldn't do anything because they were afraid to get fired, then I'm sorry, but I do believe there is a basis for that assertion. So going forward, I will be presenting some information on teachers and what I presume to be, I would call it my, we have a Bill of Rights for parents. We should also have a Bill of Rights for teachers. And I'm not talking about a Bill of Rights that lets teachers teach things that may be inappropriate or that teach things that may be not condoned by parents, but I'm talking about teachers that should have the ability to teach their classes without fear of having students who are disrespectful and interfere with the education of other students in your class. And if you think that that does not happen at Penn, then again, you need to look around. But let me get down to what I really wanted to say, and that is that I'm going to come again and I'm going to ask, well, no, I'm not going to come again. I'm not going to ask about the CRT anymore because finally it's been a year and at just about every board meeting I've asked for a discussion of CRT and for the board to take a stand with the Indiana Department of Education in their condemnation of CRT in our schools. Now, this is not me making this up. This is not me saying don't teach anything about racism. This is not me saying we don't agree or we're trying to hide something that happened in the past. The reality is we should teach all of history, all the truth of history. Every ugly thing that happened, it should be taught, absolutely. But when it comes to CRT, the Indiana Department of Education condemns it as an ideology that has no place in our schools, and it should be totally dismissed. And that's, again, that is a position statement put out by the IDOE, not just me. And all I've been doing for the last year is trying to get our board to have a discussion on it and take a vote. Do you agree or do you disagree with the Indiana Department of Education? Very simple. No brainer. Should be an easy situation. But it can't even get on the agenda. So then recently I had a meeting with Dr. Thacker. I said, let's put this to bed. Let's get this taken care of. What's the big deal? We talked about it. And when I left the meeting, I thought we were going to have it on the agenda for tonight. But when I saw that it wasn't, I talked to Dr. Thacker today, and his response to me was very simply that this board has no interest in pursuing this. Okay. So that's what I was told by our superintendent. So if the board has no interest in pursuing this, That's what I was told by Dr. Thacker.
Have you been told something different by board members?
No one on the board has talked to me at all about the CRT. I've got no response at all. Well, except for you. Sorry. But that's what I'm saying. So I don't need to talk about it anymore. And all I can say is this. Loudoun County, Virginia, the board there didn't want to talk about CRT either. And places all over this United States didn't want to talk about it either. But the parents wanted to talk about it, and they wanted to make sure that it was not included in anything in their schools. Now, I agree, and I'm hopeful that you're right about Penn. It's not taught at Penn, and that's great. And I hope it's never taught at Penn, any of it. You know, and it's never going to be a class that says, you know, no CRT, or let's learn about CRT. That's never going to happen. But to say that there are not aspects of CRT embedded in some of the classroom lessons, I think that that's naive as well. Because if there wasn't classrooms with CRT embedded in different ways to cover up what's really going on, there wouldn't be websites out there with teachers putting on the lesson plans, teaching teachers how to put CRT in the classroom, embed them in your classroom, make them look like they're part of state standards. So this does happen, maybe not at Penn, hopefully not at Penn, but all I'm saying is let's take a stand and say it will never happen at Penn, and that's all I'd like to say.
Board members, other reports or requests? Okay. Obviously, some things were said about Mr. Turnwald and me. We are not here in our capacities as candidates. We remain in our capacities as trustees. We'd like to do a job. We're not going to turn this into a campaign event. Suffice it to say, we see things very differently. There being no further business before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We're adjourned at 10:19.